It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell are here. We've got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk with our winners and dozers in the chat room, get their questions, plus some new releases. The Canary build just came out. No closer to Windows 12. The Dev Home Preview, Windows 365 Switch, Edge for Business. We'll talk about the trouble with streaming fatigue. And Xbox finally does something to address toxicity. But is it enough? All that and more coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Richard Campbell and Paul Thurrott. Episode 842, recorded Wednesday, August 16th, 2023. 8 strikes and you're out. This episode of Windows Weekly is brought to you by CacheFly. Literally. CacheFly delivers rich media content up to 10 times faster than traditional delivery methods and 30% faster than other major CDNs. Meet customer expectations 100% of the time and learn how you can get your first month free at cachefly.com. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show we cover the latest news from Microsoft with Paul Thurrott, Richard Campbell. Hello, Richard.
Hello,
Paul,
friend.
Before the show, you were talking. Paul, have you lost your home? Are you unhoused?
No. We moved earlier in the year, right, to an apartment, and so the kids have now both visited here, and we went to DC together.
I saw your lovely Instas from the District of Columbia.
Yeah, let me tell you something though, Leo. You kind of forget how expensive things are because we go to Mexico for 2 years, and when we go to Mexico, my wife and I eat lunch for $3.50, and we go to Washington D.C. with the kids, and it's $400. And
yeah. Wow.
What just happened?
Yeah.
You know, every
Welcome
time
to
we
the
got a bill,
swamp,
I was
Paul.
like, am I on a camera or something? Like,
yeah, the $3.50 is the small soda.
you can't get anything in DC for $3.50,
Amazing, isn't it?
No, I mean, you kind of forget how much expensive place. You know, obviously, like New York, Paris, London, whatever. These are expensive places, but
Right.
I think I bought 4 iPhones while I was there. Basically, the equivalent. It was just expensive. It was great. I mean, DC is literally my favorite city in the United States.
Yeah,
But
it's awesome.
Goddamn, so very expensive.
It's awesome. Yeah. Well, welcome back. Now here we are, gathered to get together today. We're going to do a Windows Weekly, but with a little icing on the top. After the Xbox segment, we're going to open up the stage in our Club Twit Discord. So I hope you have been. I told you we were going to do this last week. You didn't believe me, but we are. So I hope you did your homework.
It's up to you guys to be cream cheese icing and not that crap you get at the supermarket.
Yeah, none of that whipped cream icing. We want dense, rich, sweet, condensed questions.
Right.
So if you are not in the Discord, head over to the stage and we'll tell you when to raise your hand. But get your questions ready. And you can ask Paul anything.
You need a question that gives you an angioplasty afterwards. Like really a thick question.
A thick, cholesterol-rich question for all of us.
There's nothing wrong with cholesterol.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Cholesterol gets a bad rap.
No pressure.
So, what's up? How's the Windows thing going for you now, huh?
Yeah, it's going pretty good for me, just generally as a career. But for the rest of you, probably not so good.
Oh, dear. What's the matter?
Actually, so one of the weird things about the notes is I go through the stories of the past week and I look at them, and there were at first I was gonna I have a bunch of mobile stories. I think some of these are relevant. You know, maybe one could be a pick or something. You know, and then I was like, there's a lot of AI stories, but they're all mobile stories. So there's kind of a big mobile and AI section, which I think speaks to in the heightened time frame in which AI is occurring this year, if you will. I hate to use this word, the maturity of, it's such a stupid word to use, but of these things like coming to mobile, are these features coming to mobile. So there's a bunch of that, but we'll do the Windows stuff up front. And honestly, there isn't too much.
Nothing to say
for some
here.
reason.
Nothing to see here.
Well, we didn't get any new builds late last week. Just as the show was starting, Microsoft announced a new Canary build. Canary is the one we suspect will be Windows 12, and we're always looking for evidence of that, and there never is any, and that continues. It gets a few features that previously debuted in the dev channel. We talked about that kind of thing happening. That's kind of normal. There's just really not much in the way of new features that will impact most people. That's all. So there's not really a lot.
You're not excited about changes to domain controller location mappings?
Well, that's why I said normal people. So I'm excited. Strong word. Yeah, I don't know. They will. DC location will no longer use NetBIOS or Wins.
Yeah, you're not prioritizing Wins anymore. What will I do with my Wins server? Oh no.
Exactly. Right, my NT4 Wins server. Yes. Crazy. Anyway, yeah, that's fine. They're just deprecating legacy technology. But as far as like actual changes, it's very small things. Like there's a few more fields added to the details pane, it's actually the details view in File Explorer. You can sync your Windows accent color with the devices around you to match the accent color. If you have a dynamic lighting sensor in your device, which is kind of it, or I should say dynamic lighting devices that interact with Windows, you can kind of sync the desktop accent color to the devices around you, I guess, which is probably fun for gamers or whatever. But yeah, not much. So yeah, and that's pretty much it. I was pretty sure when we saw that I'm like, okay, here we go. There's going to be like new builds elsewhere. And no, that's it. So
not 12-ish to me.
No, not even slightly.
Yeah. But I mean, the best I could argue is clean up to get ready for something 12-ish.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, I thought we were going to see it before now, but now we just can't, this, welcome to my life, Richard. This is what happens all the time. We've been doing this for years. You just keep readjusting your expectations. It's kind of like as you get older, it's like, I want to be able to dunk a basketball. Now you're like, I just want to be able to stand up. It just kind of switches over time. So my new guess, and that guess will change again in September, is maybe as Windows 11 23H2 comes to fruition later this month and then is released, maybe then we'll start getting the Windows 12 stuff started.
Look, in October 21, right after Windows 11 ships, there's a new folder in my side of Microsoft called Windows vNext. Like that's got to be true, right? Right. So there's been more than a year, nearly a year of more than a year of things tinkering around in that space. Yep. But I think it all got derailed in January this year.
Why?
Because of the of ChatGPT, because of the Bing AI, because of the Satya announcement that thou shalt co-pilot all the things. At that point, though, vNext folks look at their stack and go, well, this isn't the right direction. And I think we're going to be delayed.
Yeah. And unfortunately, in Windows case, there's not a bountiful basket full of features they could add that will be meaningful in time for Windows 12 and may never be really, right? Although, actually, I shouldn't say that. We talked about this a little bit, this notion of, you could be truly helpful to users and not just an annoyance.
Or you could be a funny looking icon.
Yeah. Right. Or you could just be
Can't
a
you be
stupid
both?
yellow bar that appears in Word. You could be,
You could do topping and a floor wax. Is that possible?
It's only Wednesday. Twice this week, I've started a meeting in Teams and been blocked by a pop-up telling me about other things I can do with Teams, which I find to be really irritating.
I hate that.
My favorite.
And I'm getting a little tired of people defending this behavior because the stock response is always like, well, what would you do to tell people? I can tell you what I wouldn't do is interrupt a meeting. I'll just put that one out there. And I think there are examples of good UI for this kind of thing. For example, when you update Chrome OS and probably Chrome, I guess, the thing comes back and says, look, here's a what's new thing if you want to look at it. And if you don't, good. We don't care. We're not going to keep throwing stuff in your face. I don't know why Microsoft keeps doing that.
Because I'm guessing, because it works.
Well, drives usage or something.
I don't think it does. I suspect it doesn't work. But the great thing is if you don't measure the response, then you don't have to worry about it.
We think it works. It might work.
Yeah.
No one knows. It's impossible to know. It's just
more
a mystery.
importantly, I
even
get my promotion based on the number of
way.
times I think gets popped, right? So as long as it's popped a lot, that's good.
How about the number of times it's popped and I've immediately said no to it? You know, do you learn anything from that?
And now you're drilling too deep into the data. We don't want to go there.
They're not the only company that does this. I mean, it's one of the real annoyances with Amazon's Echo is that often you'll tell it to do something and it says, "Did you know I can peel potatoes for you as well?" And it's like, no, I don't.
I won't remember the exact query, but we were in the car and I said, "I wonder what the question was, whatever it was." And I'm like, "Hey, whatever." I'm like, "Hey, G, blah, what's the?" It's like you ask it. I'll just make something up. What's the temperature in Washington D.C. right now?
Yeah,
and it says the what temperature in Washington right now is 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit because it's August. And did you know that the Washington and I'm like, Google, shut up, stop talking. I'm asking you a question. I'm not beginning a dialogue.
Yeah,
you know, that's my big pet peeve. I don't like that kind of stuff. I don't know. Anyway, AI is going to be a whole new generation of terribleness with regards to that kind of thing. Hopefully, someone will figure out a way for it to be seamless and helpful. You know, this is the thing Google always talks about, actually, like the Pixel is like the helpful phone or whatever they say. I'd like Windows to be helpful, not annoying.
Hey, Echo, how do I get to the Exorcist steps from here? Did you know Linda Blair was spitting pea soup when she threw up? Yeah.
My fun fact about the Exorcist steps, by the way, is that, and we just literally rewatched this movie last night.
I bet you did because you were at the steps and the house.
I mean, I could do a 6-part podcast series on this movie, but my favorite fun fact is, famously in the movie, I hope I'm not ruining it for anyone. It came out in 1971 or whatever. But you know, at the end of the movie, the priest takes the demon into his body, jumps through the window, and falls down the stairs.
Yeah.
The window in that house is approximately 25 to 30 feet from that staircase. So what they did in the movie was they built a cardboard extension to the house that made it go out to the wall. So if you look at it, all the long shots and the close shots, it looks beautiful, but the house is L-shaped in the movie, and the house is just a straight front to back rectangle in real life. There's a huge space there.
That's very funny.
That's how they reached the staircase.
Pazuzu could have had him go 30 feet. I mean,
that's true.
You know, you got the help of a demon.
Yes, but there's a crime earlier on where the producer of the movie, the director of the movie, is killed, and they describe it, and you know they look out the cop and the priest are both like, you know, it seems like he would have to have been thrown from here just to make it. I mean, like you couldn't make that a normal crime if it was 25 or 30 feet from the stairs like that. You know?
That's right. Yeah, you're right.
So, anyway, they made it fit
the cardboard house.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Something to look at. You can look at it. The opening scene in Georgetown, they show it from afar. You can see the house in the distance.
What hotel did you stay at? Did you stay in a nice hotel? Did you like?
No, we didn't. We stayed in an Airbnb.
Oh, okay. All right. That's no fun.
Yeah. That's the other thing. Every cab or what do you call it? Uber ride we take in Mexico City, $2, $3, maybe $4.
Uber is
the airport is $8 to $10.
Yeah.
Every time we stepped in that Uber and we had to go back both directions, remember, it was $20 to $25 every time. And we took we took at least 2 trips back and forth every day.
Yeah.
It's incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could have rented a car and paid for parking in DC because that's cost effective.
Where we stayed in DC, we had a little tiny garage that was the size of my car plus 1 inch in each direction. And we had 2 cars and we had to find a garage that we paid for, which was really far away. There is no street parking in the city. I mean, there is if you're like a resident and pay for it, but you cannot park a car in the street. Like, I'm not saying you can't like literally anywhere. I'm saying I never saw it anywhere. We looked everywhere. There was nothing. It is expensive.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Mukanji's so much better.
I know. It's a beautiful place, though.
Yeah, it's fun.
Okay,
I think there's an excitement going to the nation's capital. I enjoy it.
Yeah, let's just visit.
It's like Ottawa. When you go to Ottawa, don't you feel the electricity?
Well, you know, when it's on, because it's Ottawa.
I'm sorry.
Her former Royal Highness Queen Elizabeth stated of Ottawa, well, at least they don't have to worry about being invaded. Nobody will find this place.
Nice. Nice.
Well, I'm sorry. I love our Canadian friends to the north. I shouldn't mock them. In fact,
that's why it's okay. As long as they know it comes from a place of love.
Having a quiet nation's capital is probably a good thing. I mean, you didn't enjoy it when the truck drivers were there. I mean, it's nice to be quiet.
That was problematic, yes.
Yeah. You wanted quiet.
It's peaceful.
That's where the castle is, like the what do they call that? The Frontenac?
No, that's in Quebec City.
That's in Quebec City. Yeah. That's right. That's right.
The only walled city in North America.
Pretty cool.
Beautiful.
Got that beautiful
place.
Pretty cool.
Yep. All about the beaver skins.
They have a waterfall.
Everything I know about Canada, I learned on Jeopardy, actually. So.
Yeah, nice. Lots of French food. It's good.
I am surprised you want to talk about DevHome because I'm just not sure anybody uses.
There's nothing to talk about, so this one
what is DevHome?
So DevHome is a feature coming in the next version of Windows 11 that will, honestly, I don't think the first version is going to reach the aspirations here, but the idea is you're a developer and you can sit down and immediately have like this dev environment, including all the tools you use, set up the right way, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I mean, it's anyone can do this. I don't believe this requires in fact, I'll just look. I don't think this requires an insider version of Windows. I think if you go to the Microsoft Store and type in DevHome, you will see the preview there. If this computer could move any faster, I would actually prove that point. I believe it's unstable, but as a preview. And yeah, it is. So, I mean, you can check it out for yourself. It's just that right as the show was starting, there were the two announcements, the Canary build and this, so I threw it into the notes and I looked at it later and it was like, okay, there's no new features really. It's like accessibility improvements, which obviously are important. And then some bug fixes improvements and bug fixes. Yeah, nothing.
But I mean, you know how most information workers I know either start in Outlook or they start in Teams. And that's, you look at your calendar. What have I got today?
Right.
And so I guess the idea of this is what's my issue list? What are my warnings from GitHub? Did my tests finish?
Yeah.
I just don't know why it isn't just integrated into like Studio. Like that's the thing you normally do is just open Studio.
Oh, yeah.
Why is this a Windows feature?
There should be a DevHome plugin for Studio. How about that? Maybe that's the plan.
Yeah, right. Yes, I agree with that. And Microsoft has this kind of vague mission to make Windows the best possible OS for developers, which I appreciate. That's fine. It's a good idea. Terminal is there because of this. The Windows subsystem for Android, in some ways, you could argue, is really about this getting one machine where you can do everything. Maui speaks to this a little bit, although in some point in the chain you'll need a Mac, frankly. But they have cloud-based Macs you could use if you wanted to use a service. So yeah, okay. I mean, it's fine. I don't know. It's just Microsoft tends to kind of half-ass things, especially in the first release. And I feel like we're going to land right there on this one. So
it's a good question. The team behind it, folks like Kayla and Clint, like they're great people. This is an odd project in my mind.
Yeah.
We'll see if it turns into anything. I would say this, just looking at the open source project, there's plenty of community folks contributing to it. So
yeah, and actually, right. And that's actually a big part of the communications.
I think it will get shaped into something potentially useful because the folks that are
Kayla, you mean Kayla Cinnamon? Is that
Kayla Cinnamon is
so I feel like a lot of these people were, and I don't mean her specifically necessarily, but I feel like a lot of these people were kind of on the Visual Studio Code Train kind of deal and are like, but I'm using a Mac. Like, what do you, I don't understand what am I doing? So anyway, it's fine. It's not a bad idea. I just feel like they just announced it right at build.
Yeah.
It's going to come to fruition pretty quickly. I guess it's possible Windows 11 23H2 will ship with it in preview, and maybe it's something that occurs over a year. I guess I think it's going to need that time.
And Clint Rutkus is one of the folks behind Windows Power Toys. So, I mean, he certainly knows his way into add-ins in Windows. So you can see the combination of those two, why this product looks the way it does.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, this is one of the ways you get the RAFS drive, right? You can configure that in DevHome. It will partition the disk and do all that stuff for you. It's some good stuff. I mean, I'm not a professional developer. I just feel like I am so particular when it comes to these tools. I'm just a little, I feel like a lot of professional developers would look at this and be like, yeah, no, it's a good idea. I'm just going to do my own thing. But that's cool. It's cool what you're doing,
Yeah, that'll be the challenge, to get it to a point where someone who already has a configuration they like says, my configuration may be better by this.
Right. That's right.
This looks like it's open source too, which is kind of cool.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people are contributing to it. And
that's right.
This is the new Microsoft, right?
Yeah.
It's good. It is good.
Yeah.
And then just moving on from that non-event. We mentioned Windows 365 switch last week. This week it has moved into, I don't remember where it landed last week. It was in one of the channels. It is now available in dev and beta. So if you use Windows 365, you can test it in both of those channels now. I assume the rules are still the same, meaning that the cloud PC you're using has to be on the same insider dev or insider channel as the host PC for this to work properly. So whatever, but that's one little minor update. And just completing this quadrant of terrible non-news stories. Microsoft Edge for Business is launching this month. I feel like almost no one knows exactly what it is. And once you find out what it is, you will be slightly disappointed. But it is Microsoft has long supported this notion of profiles in their browser, just like, Chrome does the same thing or whatever. And if you configure two profiles, and one is an MSA, Microsoft account, and the other is a work or school account, meaning what used to be an AAD account, I refuse to use its real name.
AAD still works just fine. You can still.
Yep, thank you. They would appear as separate windows, slightly different icon in the taskbar. You could pin both separately, right, if you wanted to do that. But there really wasn't much in the way of integration between the two. And so this is kind of a formalization of what that might look like. And it is centrally managed by your organization's IT staff, which was always the case with the work or school account browser settings and so forth. But it gives you like a personal and a work half. You can, as a user, which is kind of strange. I'm sure the settings that are available to the IT will allow for this as well. But you can, as an individual, say, when I open this particular site, I always want it to go to Edge for Business or regular Edge. So that if you're in regular Edge and you type in a work URL, the other window will pop up and never the twain shall meet, so to speak.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I assume that's also centrally manageable, but it is interesting they're letting users do that as well.
Well, and it's almost a swing back towards the shared use machine concept.
Yeah.
Which may be just a response to more work from home in general. The IT folks I've been talking to lately, the past few years, it started with phones where it's like, it's easier than trying to figure out how to split use on a phone. Give them another phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there are obviously more elegant solutions to that, but they're more complicated, right? So you could do like selective wipe, where your work data could be wiped, but your home data is not touched, that kind of thing. But people do or do not trust that, or people implementing do or do not do that correctly. So
turns out if you give them a 2-year-old Android phone that you have complete control of as a sysadmin, that's your work phone, all is well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You need to get it back if they depart on less than favorable circumstances.
I have a friend who he just continues to be confused by this, but the workplace will give him a new iPhone every 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't use iPhone. He doesn't care about iPhone. So he buys an Android phone and he uses that for himself. And he's like, I don't understand. Like everyone I work with just uses the iPhone. I'm like, you don't understand that, really? You don't understand not spending $1,000 on a new phone and just using the thing they gave you for free? Really? And he's like, why would I want to mix my work and home stuff? Because nobody cares, Jeff. Yeah. Because most people just don't care.
Nobody cares until the legal discovery.
Yeah. Right.
But the idea that, this is really interesting because I think it's actually a political statement that we're getting back to partially controlled devices, that you'd want to have this separation in your browser.
Yeah. We are coming out of a 3-year period here where we've all been using whatever we could scrap together to get work done on. And, there are indications that's going to start changing back for a lot of people, unfortunately, but I feel like there's still going to be a sizable audience who will continue doing this.
One of the presumptions here for Edge for Business is that you're also using Edge for Personal. And I don't know that that's actually an issue. If the business wants to control Edge, it's like, there are other browsers to use.
Yeah, actually, right. And that's been kind of a long-term strategy for people. Use one browser for one thing and the other for another.
Yeah,
which is
totally. I do it every day.
This is, bring your own device started a long, long time ago, and it was about phones, And I think the pandemic kind of made it more about computers as well, I guess.
Well, suddenly we didn't have enough machines to send home, or we didn't want to send the machines home.
Yeah.
So you had to use your own machine.
You got to be careful with that, though. I like one example. If you install Teams, and this is not the only app that does this, but you sign in with a work or school account, you get this dialog box. I think a lot of people just kind of click by, don't really pay attention to it. It says, hey, do you want us let us manage the whole PC or just this app? And the default is the whole PC. And it's like,
yeah.
do not give control. Yeah. That's not smart.
No, and you're exactly right. You're asking people questions they don't know the answers to. Right.
You're like, I mean, obviously it must have to control the whole PC. What if I have to download a file or something? And it's like, yeah, that's not how that works. But yeah, I would never give control of my own PC to my workplace. Well, that's not true now. It's the same, but you know what I mean? Back when I had a job, like,
have you seen your employer? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
That guy.
I mean, he was drunk all weekend. I don't know. Anyway, so that, So Edge for Business is coming, I believe, in the version of Edge that will be released any day now. I think it's version 116. It's the type of thing that gets activated. So you'll see it. There'll be like a little,
they're almost certainly going to have to do a run as on the whole policy controls over that. Like,
I think what you're going to find, I'm not an expert in this area, but because all of the policies come over from whatever you had before, I'm sure that, I just don't know anything about this, but I'm sure there is a wealth of Edge policies and group policy.
Oh, yeah. They already exist. It's just now pushing to a device that's not yours.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So to the user, it's just a small UI change. I think for businesses, this is probably
going to be much more problematic.
A fairly elegant thing. Yeah.
Well, it's also going to be a policy conversation. Is do we want to insert our stuff on their machines and have rights over it? And how are they going to respond to it? Like, there's definitely a governance issue there.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
You know what? It's all fun and games until the FBI shows up at your employee's place and seizes the machine.
That's right.
Right? Like, this stuff happens. Sure. You know, and working from home, like, the consequences are going to be serious.
Right. It's true.
All right.
It's Microsoft. We got this.
Wow. It was not a most exciting Windows week, for sure.
I know. I really thought we were going to see more this week. I don't know. Well, this will excite you more than.
No, but hold on, because save the excitement. I don't want to miss a moment of it, but I think this might be a good time to mention our sponsor. How about that? This fine Windows Weekly program is brought to you quite literally by CacheFly. That's our content delivery network, and CacheFly is the best. They've been doing it since 1999. It was about 2008, maybe 10 years later, 1999, 2009, that I called. Well, actually, they called me. I was moaning about how hard it was to get our content delivered to our global audience. It was just bringing the servers down. It just wasn't working. Matt Levine, one of the founders, called me up, said, Leo, we can help. And I have been a happy CacheFly customer ever since. CacheFly, for more than 24 years now, has held the track record for high-performing, ultra-reliable content delivery. 3,500 clients, including us, in over 80 countries. Organizations like ours consistently choose CacheFly because it offers scalability, reliability, and unrivaled performance. Now, there are a number of ways CacheFly can help you. Let me give you one for website owners. CacheFly's new Smart Image Optimization. It is a remarkable solution for enhanced image processing. The service allows dynamic transformation and optimization of all the images on your site, which means you're going to get faster loading times, you're going to get improved user experience and reduced bandwidth consumption, but most importantly, on any size screen. Smart Image Optimization enables configurable, predefined image transformation at specific path prefixes. So you can say, this is my image folder. Easily fetch images from designated pages. You can do things like add watermarks. It's really a great way to customize your content. Again, CacheFly, to the forefront of this stuff, they developed intelligent logic that allows dynamic interpolation of collected information into transform commands. That means you can actually put relevant things like file names, request IPs, or image metadata into the processed images themselves. Really helps with diagnostics, with tracking, with analytics. Get ready to deliver personalized and engaging visual content effortlessly. CacheFly, of course, offers great video too. Ultra-low latency video streaming. More than 1 million concurrent users, less than 1 second latency. Boom. That's all I have to say. Mind-boggling. Lightning fast gaming, delivering downloads faster, zero lag, zero glitches, zero outages. You also get mobile content optimization. As I mentioned, the only CDN built for throughput, delivering rich media content up to 10 times faster than traditional delivery methods and 30% faster than other major CDNs. And I could tell you, the best support ever. We love these guys at CacheFly. And the billing. Now, this was a really important thing for us. They offer flexible month-to-month billing for as long as you need it. Because initially, our traffic, and I bet yours too, is kind of spiky, right? All of a sudden, there's a lot of hits, and then it's quiet for a while, and there's a lot of hits. CacheFly smooths that out, so you don't pay for the peaks. You pay for, what you need. And once you've got it all figured out, you can work out a contract and get a discount for a fixed term. The bottom line is you design your own contract when you switch to CacheFly. We wouldn't have it any other way. We've been using CacheFly for more than a decade. It's almost 15 years now. Learn how you can get your first month free. CacheFly.com. How many times have you heard me say it? Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. Thank you, CacheFly. We appreciate it. Now, share the excitement, Paul Thurrott. You're going to really let everybody down when you tell them how exciting this news is.
So,
share it. It's so exciting.
It's very exciting.
Oh,
so back in July, I think, Microsoft announced the new default font for Office.
Yes, we were so excited. Aptos. Yeah.
Now,
there's something more? How much more
default theme that will arrive in September and is literally the combination of a changed color palette, updated default line weights, and the new font that we just discussed.
Well, it's about time.
Yeah.
Do you have a picture of it here? Oh, yeah, there it is.
Yeah, there's some. You can see the theme change. They've gotten rid of the yellow. It was in the theme. Now it's kind of a dark green color. And they've shifted a bunch of the other colors as well. So it's supposed to look more modern and
yeah, I like kind of the teal for a hyperlink is nicer than the bright blue and the whatever that is, plum for the followed hyperlink.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mauve.
So, I mean, if you have a corporate style you're using in your presentations or documents or whatever, this will not impact you that much. But if you're just using the apps like most of us are, you will see this difference, I think. Well, Mary Jo might not have seen it. She didn't really notice too many things like this. But
no.
Yeah, but I think most of you will see it.
So
I'm actually struggling to deal with that.
This is Paul's excited voice, yes. He delivered this in his mashed potatoes wondering, yes, this is it.
Yeah, this is, I can get excited. When
you're talking about luncheon prices in the nation's capital.
Yeah,
sure.
I can get animated if I have to.
Yeah.
This is not one of those moments. But yeah, I'm still not a fan of Aptos. I don't like it. I'm trying.
Yeah. It's
when I just installed it,
it's just a font, right? Like
it's just a font. It's just a font. It's just a life partner.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it. It's well, I mean, I write obviously a lot, and I for example, I just installed or started using Word on a new computer. So Word has not updated itself yet, and it still has Calibri as its default font. And it's like, like I really do notice it. And there's something off about Aptos to me. And I don't want to be that person that has to manually change the default font, because I'm going to have to do it every single time I install a new version of Word or whatever. But I'm struggling. So we'll get there, I guess.
Yeah, and you're going to have a good tip of the week on how to configure to automatically calibrate.
I don't want to do that, but you're right. You're right.
It's just a fun.
I do have I probably do have an article I wrote at one point, like how I configure Word, because I do configure it very specifically, and will be used as evidence in a future trial to prove my insanity. It'll be like, look at this thing, like look what this guy does. He's crazy. Obviously, he's crazy. So I don't know. Hopefully, none of you suffer from this mania. Alrighty, and that's it for Microsoft 365. Default theme in Office coming in September. Look forward to that.
You'll know it when you see it.
Yeah. So as I mentioned up front, a lot of mobile stories this week, which, depending on the week, we have busy weeks, obviously. I'm not going to start talking about Amazon, Google, whatever stuff, per se, Apple. But actually, this stuff's kind of interesting because literally there's at least 6 of them that are 5 or 6 of them that are all kind of AI based, and I think that's where we're going, right? Everything's going to be AI based. So I thought it was kind of an interesting collection of things to occur in the span of 5 or 6 days there, right? So we'll just start off with the first one, I guess. This happened just yesterday, I believe, or the other day. Google announced a new memory view in Google Photos. Like, okay, who cares? But it's AI based, right? Like everything is. This will be, I think it's US only for now. That will change, over time. It should be, let me make sure before I say this, it's possible. It is on the web too. So actually this one's on the web, so you could get it from Windows, but also iOS and Android. So if you use Google Photos for your photos, which I do, and I think it's probably one of the better ones, honestly, you probably get these constant memory pop-ups. There's probably one on my phone right now. No, there isn't actually, but when you go and it's like, remember 13 years ago, or like, here's some pictures of you and your wife, or remember the trip to Mexico, or whatever it is, similar shots, which is kind of fun. But obviously when you think about photos and other imagery, like using AI to kind of figure out not just what things go together, but also, layouts and kind of fun ways to combine information in ways that would be fun. So you can share these things, you can save them and do all that kind of stuff. So if you don't use Google Photos, well, screw you. But no, you should you should check it out. It's actually very good. Opera added its own Chat GPT based AI feature to its new desktop browser, which is called it's called Opera One, I believe, right? Opera One, yep. And then Opera for Android back in a couple months ago, probably. So that's available now on iOS, which I looked really hard to figure out if a lot of people use iOS to mean iPad and iPhone.
Right.
And if you look at the screenshots for this particular app, and because you could switch back and forth between the iPhone and iPad view, it does not look like the iPad version was updated. So it's possible it could only be iPhone. So that's the way I wrote it. I couldn't be sure. But so the thing that's interesting about Aria, ChatGPT based, right? So it's not, again, they have their own collaboration with OpenAI. They're doing that kind of stuff. It's generative AI service. They do all those things you kind of expect. Ask it questions, follow-ups. It's personalized. It's all those things, right? It's free, right? Which is kind of interesting
for now.
Yep. Apparently 1 million people have used it. It can generate not just text, but also software code, right?
Nice.
Product comparisons. I mean, all that kind of stuff. So it's, I don't know that this is going to make anyone switch to Opera per se, although it's going to be interesting to see how all the browser makers kind of line up when it comes to AI capabilities.
But it does sound like an excuse not to switch. It's like, well, they don't have AI capabilities. So
it's worth looking at. I would just put it that way. The Opera mobile browsers are kind of unique in this space as well, but that's true of a lot of browsers are trying different things. It does include a built-in ad blocker. If you want that kind of stuff. So there's that.
And what'd you do with the AI in a browser? I mean, what exactly?
I think it's about you just walking around, you ask it a question, like in other words, like we were just in DC to keep beating that topic to death. I am in front of the Washington Monument. What other things are fun to do near here?
That's cool. Yeah.
That kind of thing.
And it was useful, good stuff. I mean,
no, I wouldn't say that. No, it's it is. No, it is.
No, honestly, it wasn't kind of hallucinating. It gave you real.
Yeah, kind of stuff. Yeah, I always use the same example because Yusuf Mehdi, when they introduced this back in February, said that he was going to Mexico City for a wedding and he wanted to know some stuff to do. So he had to generate like a 5-day, list of things to, like an itinerary. And I'm like, that's interesting. I know a lot about Mexico City. So I can use this example all the time and see how good it is. And depending on which thing you're using and the date, it can be pretty unsophisticated. I've seen, in fact, that the Bing one early on, and I think it's still in the video if you look at it, and if you know anything about Mexico City, it recommends 2 locations that are nowhere near each other to do in the same day. And Mexico City is a big place, and that is a really dumb thing to try to do in one day.
Yeah, and so, known for its great traffic.
It's very well known, but at least the streets are in terrible quality too, so it works out great. That stuff has gotten a lot better. And this works pretty well with that regard. I mean, only used it a couple of times to try to, simple things like that. But it's worth. I would just say it's worth looking at. This is going to shake out where everyone's going to have these capabilities.
Right.
These are going to be just.
I think it's starting to feel like table stakes. Like
exactly.
You have to have this, or you're not credible.
Yep.
Do you use Aria as your day-to-day iOS browser?
No, I don't. No.
You're a brave guy, as I recall.
just trying it. Yeah, just try it. Yeah. But I like to try all this
downloading
stuff.
it
You never
try
know.
it out.
Yeah, you never know.
I've actually always liked Opera. I don't know why I don't use it.
Yeah. Opera sits in a weird place because now it's another Chromium-based browser.
It's Chromium. Okay.
It is.
Yeah,
Chromium,
I'm supporting Firefox just for the diversity.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I
guess you could be a better Chrome. And actually on iOS, it's not Chromium, it's WebKit.
That's right.
Because everything is, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why, honestly, like if you want to stick to the same browser across desktop and mobile, it gets a little weird because the capabilities are so different and it depends on the browser.
It adds ad blocking,
Firefox,
cryptocurrency mining protection.
Leah would probably know this. What? I believe that Firefox is bringing, desktop extension support to mobile. Does that sound right?
Ooh, that's interesting.
I think it's Firefox.
It may be because down the road, I think we're all pretty clear that Firefox is going to be Firefox, not WebKit.
Yeah.
That Apple's kind of going to open it up a little bit.
Right.
So where is Aria? Oh, maybe it's not here. Oh, yeah, here it is. Browser AI.
Yeah. You have to enable it. Right. That's the thing. So, and you need an Opera account. I should mention.
Okay. Yeah.
Surprised if you're not
Opera. Yeah.
Prompt yet, but yeah, you'll have to do that stuff.
I'll go off camera for that.
Yeah. It's worth it.
Yeah.
But
all right.
Yeah. So there's that. And then last week, 2 weeks ago, sometime recently, Amazon announced that they were going to start bringing AI generated review summaries to their, e-commerce site. This raises some interesting issues, because Amazon has a big problem where a lot of their reviews are generated by AI or by robots or by whatever. So they're summarizing themselves, I guess. It showed up on mobile first. It has now expanded, I believe, to more users. Again, US only in the beginning. They're basically just testing it. I'll just say in general, forgetting the nonsense about reviews being, fake or whatever they might be in many cases, using AI to summarize reviews on whatever, like an e-commerce site, if you're on Google Maps looking at restaurants or whatever it might be, I think it's a good idea. I think this is going to be a normal, accepted, and possibly good use of AI. You could pull out little quotes from people, like a lot of people said the whatever item at this restaurant was fantastic. Like that will be near the top. And you can be like, you know what? I want that kind of item. So I will go to this restaurant. Like, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Getting that context of an aggregation of comments is ultimately when you think about what are you doing when you're scanning a bunch of 5-star rated comments? It's like, what are the common themes here?
This it's kind of a tangential thing, but the exact opposite of AI, which is non-artificial lack of intelligence,
or natural dumbness. Okay,
local community. I'm part of a McCungy group on Facebook, right? So the questions and the things that people posted, classic. They're just classic. Does anyone know what the noise was that occurred at the corner of 3rd Street and whatever?
I see that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. The best one, I posted this on Twitter at the time. This woman actually said, "Hey, I saw something about a tornado. Should I bring my kids inside?" They're like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, no, don't worry about it. They're somewhere else now.
This is where you came for that answer. Anyway, someone asked the question. I just moved to the area. Does anyone know of any good Chinese restaurants in McCungy or the area? To which there were 73 answers or whatever, and they're all wrong because there is no good Chinese food in this entire valley. There is none. There isn't. And so this woman wrote,
I'm never moving there. Wow.
I know this is the one thing we haven't figured out here. It's bad.
You got hot dogs, so that's good.
The hot dogs are fantastic. The pizza's good. There's only 3 or 4 restaurants in McCungy. One of them is a place called China Moon. It's terrible. It's a terrible restaurant.
Oh.
Even in the scope of Chinese restaurants in my area, it's terrible.
There's nothing more disappointing than like a bad Chinese restaurant. It's like,
right. So this woman said, she said China Moon, and I responded to it like an idiot. I said, no, China Moon is terrible. And she said, well, I don't know why you have to be so mean about it. Everyone has an opinion. I said, no, you're right. Everyone does have an opinion. But he didn't ask you about Chinese restaurants. He asked you about good Chinese restaurants. And on that, objectively, we have to agree that China Moon is terrible. It has like a 3-point something rating. It's not good, Sorry. Anyway.
Yeah, it's you're not even speculating that it's not good. This is not, it's like, look at that number.
I don't understand asking people who are flawed for their opinions about things when there are objective places to go to find out this information, And like, does anyone know when a comet's going to appear in the night sky in this area? It's like, you don't ask Bob on the corner about this. You Google that,
It's going to be Wednesday, 3 p.m. Pacific.
Or it's like, does anyone know what time the whatever fair opens? And then you get 23 people who say, I heard it was, you heard, it is.
Yeah, just like the link.
Anyway, AI is going to solve this problem. I think AI, no, I shouldn't say it's going to solve. I think AI will be the next step in making those kinds of questions a little more definitive. And I think AI would agree that China Moon is garbage.
I just finished recording a .NET Rocks episode where we literally were talking about LLMs in that sort of capacity of like skimming the 80% most common questions and answering them automatically.
Yeah, just do it, Yeah. And you don't need AI to know that when I ask you what the capital of Canada is, I don't need a 300-word essay on the benefits of Ottawa. I just need the answer, and then stop talking.
No. So I give you the answer about Ottawa, and then I tell you all the things I can tell you about capitals.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. Ottawa is the it's I don't know. I don't know why they talk so much, but anyway, hopefully AI could be used for good.
They are upselling knowledge. Yes, that's right. Do not upsell.
I just brought this up because we were in DC when my kids were little and we would go on vacation. Didn't matter where, France, Prado, and Madrid or wherever. I would say, listen, you guys are on vacation. Don't you dare learn anything in this building. If I see you reading something, we're leaving. We're walking through here. So, I get the parenting skills. I got the review summary. I did that one. This one's particularly exciting to me because I'm definitely upgrading to this phone. So
to the 8.
The Pixel 8 Pro in my case, or 8 and 8 Pro, probably coming out in October, right?
Yeah.
And there's been a variety of leaks, which everything so far has been good news for me. And it looks like they're going to be adding a feature, at least to these phones. The way Google does things is they'll probably go back to at least the 7 as well at some point, but a feature called Audio Magic Eraser. So if you're familiar with Magic Eraser, which appears as a feature inside of Google Photos on a Pixel, it allows you to remove objects from photos like you would expect, right?
Yeah.
This is a feature that used to require like a high-end product like Photoshop, and now you can do it on your finger like it's finger painting, and it works pretty well. It's pretty good.
All of the mocking of machine learning models and things that we're doing, like this is what you actually want.
Yeah.
Right.
Something truly useful.
You know what it doesn't say on Magic Eraser? Magic Eraser AI. It just says Magic Eraser, right? Like, listen, AI is not a product. Make products with it.
We got to get past this era. It's going to be a tough couple of years, but So, I'm sorry. Magic Eraser though is when I heard that term, I guess I don't know what I thought. I thought it was something slightly different than what it is. And what it is what I think most people would think it is, which is you remove background sounds.
Right.
You can only, it's a leaked video. So you can just see 3 of the items, but the first 3 are people, music, and what's the other one? Oh boy.
Car accidents.
Car accidents. I don't remember. I don't know. I'm surprised I can't see it in my own article. Audio items. This is the other one is people. Oh, it's just background. No, I'm sorry, noise. background
noise. The big one for me would be copyrighted music.
Yeah, right.
Because if you're going to post something online or anything like that,
that's right.
Just be able to and have it integrated into the phone. Once again, it's like these smaller machine learning models, these ASIs
can run right on the device.
That can run right on the device. Meantime, you're shoveling buckets of money into the Azure kiln to run these large language models.
Right. Yeah, Pixel is weird. Since the Pixel 6, right? Pixel 6 was the first one with the tensor processor. They're, they have some issues, right? They charge very slowly because of heat issues. They heat up very quickly if you're doing things out in the world with them.
Yeah.
They're never going to win any benchmark tests or anything like that. They're not particularly good for games. If that's your thing, it's not. I don't really care. But I think their little bet on those machine learning capabilities in AI, if you want to call it that, is going to pay off. And I think
100%, because it's the thing that makes a difference, right? Yeah. Like you don't race the size of the sensor anymore. Don't race putting 17 sensors on it, but erase the natural things that most people would want to do to correct a photograph.
Yeah.
Or to correct a video clip. Like those are the features that are going to make a difference to people. Like when I use my phone, I get better results. Full stop.
Yeah. No, it's right. These things work really well. So I'm curious to see the audio version. Yeah, here's the video.
Yeah, I don't know if I can get the audio out of this, but
yeah, it's hard to. Well, the audio isn't super important. In some ways, it's the ironically, it's there's a quick. Well, first of all, you see a light blue color there, so we know that's coming. But there's a quick shot. There you go.
I can't believe how this stuff leaks out. This is ridiculous. Yeah. So the jet plane is going over, and you want to hear her skateboarding or something, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. We'll see. You know what? You know who's going to be the number one use for this? Podcasters.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll see, because that's a thing.
I want to see automatic though. In other words, how about removing it at record time?
Yeah.
And then having it be one of those dynamic things where you could actually bring it back if it made a mistake.
Yeah.
We'll see. I bet this evolves over time and it becomes quite sophisticated. So this seems like a good idea to me.
When you think about the view of a piece of audio when you're producing it. So I have separate vocal tracks.
Right.
I have a background track. I might have a music inlay and so forth. You can imagine technology like this using a standard microphone on a smartphone and then giving you the tracks anyway.
Yeah. Right.
One of the biggest reasons I like recording remotely is that all our voice tracks are isolated by nature. Right. Where
that's a problem with Zoom not probably with the way Leo's doing it, but like when a normal person records Zoom,
they're both on the same track.
It's one track.
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't separate the audio tracks? I thought it did.
No, I know you think it would. It's two separate sources. It would be easy enough, but it doesn't.
And I do it myself with a loop back through the P8, probably the same way you guys do. But back to the point, it's like if the software is good enough now to literally off a single audio recording, just go, this is this voice, and this is this voice, separate them, create tracks from it. And here's the background noise, and here's foreground noise, that skateboarding, and here's music that was heard in the background, and here are some loud noises, and you can choose what to suppress.
Even on the Pixel 7, they're pretty close. Google ships the recorder with it that does auto transcription. That is as good as, the $99 a year Aria AI.
That thing actually is fantastic. Yeah. The only issue I have with the Google for recording audio, the Pixel, is I want it to be directional, and it isn't always.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Sometimes you get this thing where like I'm pointing at something and something's happening here, but there's this noisy city behind me, and it still gets a lot of that ambient stuff, and I don't understand why. I feel like you want.
I think that's the microphones more than anything else,
but it should be sophisticated about it. It should let you prevent that from happening.
I think we've run the camera race on smartphones now. Maybe we can run a microphone race.
I think you're right.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Video is still a big deal, I think, getting that right. But that's gotten a lot better. One thing that's funny, so obviously Leo gave me this Heil microphone, which is incredible. And we have a lot of trains that go by the house here. And it hasn't happened on this show, but a train will go by. You won't hear it at all. It's completely isolated. It does a beautiful job.
I didn't even know they did. Wow.
Right.
That's great.
Right. But my wife in there with her stupid little Google earbud things, we were on a group call, and she was in the other room with the door closed, and we were talking to someone. Train went by, and I didn't think anything of it. I know that he doesn't hear it. And all of a sudden he goes, "Is that a train?" And I'm like, "What, you heard that?" But it was because of my wife's thing. She had a window open, and whatever.
She didn't have a fabulous Heil PR40 like we do.
Or even, I had like a fan on me. I was in DC talking to Brad on a call, and I was like, "Can you hear the fan?" He's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Can you hear a fan?" He's like, "No." And it was just Bose noise canceling, whatever. But they did a good enough job just to filter out the sounds.
Nice.
Yeah.
AI could be an interesting application there. I think a lot of what noise canceling has been up to now is mechanical.
Yeah, directly algorithmic. Right?
Yeah, it's inverting the sound wave.
The multi-track stuff is really interesting because it lends itself to that non-destructive editing thing where you could you record whatever you record, and it does a good job or not of getting rid of those background sounds like the train or whatever. But sometimes you might actually want to hear that.
Yeah,
and it'd be kind of neat if you could selectively decide what appears. I think it's all coming together.
I will look forward to hearing it.
Yes, me too. One thing I miss, by the way, from DC, I'm going to keep talking about it, is there was a place called Museum, which was a private museum.
Oh, that's very
incredible
famous.
collection.
Oh, I'm jealous. I would love to go to museum.
Well, it's gone. No, it's closed.
I know.
Unfortunately.
I know.
So they had a spire from the World Trade Center. They had like Daniel Pearl's laptop. They had the Unabomber's cabin. I have no idea why the Smithsonian didn't buy this thing and keep it going. It was such a great museum. But one of the excellent exhibits was like, it's 1985 and you want to do a live broadcast. The gigantic truck with the crane arm on it, with the satellite thing, and all the people that needed to man all the electronics. And it's like, what does it take today? It's like this thing. It's called an iPhone. Like everything you could do with this basically, and all the communications capability is, on a phone. Kind of incredible. But
what a world.
Yes.
Hey, as long as we can get past this sort of deceptionware, crapware phase of artificial intelligence technologies, right?
Yeah, we're in it right
really,
now.
it's like scamware.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate they got right to the insurtification of AI. We're just going to launch it in insurtification.
But meantime, there's a bunch of us who are actually trying to use it in a reasonable way, and often in a way that's just not visible to the user, right? Like I appreciate that Magic Eraser doesn't have the word AI in it anywhere, right? It's just Magic Eraser.
Yeah. Speaking of insurtification, I want to just plug for this week's twit. Cory Doctorow, the creator of the term.
Oh, good.
The original term, and not the Bowdlerized version Paul is using, and Rebecca Giblin, his co-author from Choke Point Capitalism, are going to do a takeover on Twitter. It's going to be the three of us. I can't wait.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah. So that'll be fun.
I've known his name for a long time, and I don't know that he ever kind of entered into my perception in any way, but this thing has really hit home. It's like, yep. This is
he
100%.
nails it. He's brilliant. He's an amazing guy. And one of the reasons, he's been on Twit since 2008, I think. But whenever he's on, he's so smart and he's so articulate. There's no room for anybody. I mean, it's just like, okay, let's just sit back, listen.
He said.
Yeah, what he said. So I figured, if Cory's going to be on, we're going to have his co-author and him, and that's it. And let him. Nice. It's a take. I call it a takeover because I know they will. But there's a lot to talk about.
Whatever he has done or will do in life, I mean, this to me is marvelous. You've done it. You've done it. Like this is.
He was at the EFF for a long time. He was their European director. He's a novelist. Really, if you've not read any of his novels,
that's right. No,
his new one is hysterical. He's got it. He's creating a kind of a sci-fi James Bond. The guy's a forensic accountant.
Oh, jeez.
But it's good. No, I know, but it's really good. He's a really great writer. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Continue.
No, that's not at all.
We don't need to stretch this show because the listeners will be stretching it for us momentarily.
The last mobile story is not AI related, but it's kind of the conclusion of a long-running case, which is that Apple, which had agreed in 2020, I think, to settle Batterygate for up to $500 million. Will now pay owners of the iPhone 6 through 7 Plus and including SE, anyone who already got into the settlement, by the way. So that ended years ago. That settlement check will be coming to you soon. It's going to be more than expected. About $65 a person is the current estimate. There's a whole story behind this. I mean, Apple for years, and I found stories I wrote in 2015, 2016, where I was like, everyone who has an iPhone knows this. They get slow over time. It felt like this conspiracy theory, like they're doing it so you upgrade to a new phone, right? And it
turned out to not be a conspiracy.
Yeah, well, but their reason, I'm not, I think it's a little bit of both. But it was like, look, batteries decrease the power over time, and we have to throttle it to preserve the life of the battery, et cetera, et cetera. The outrage over that forced them to put a switch in iOS where you can choose between better battery, better performance.
Apple sounds like a bunch of lawyers said, "Can we squeeze this giant company for money?"
Yeah.
Come on.
That helps too. The interesting thing is that this would have been paid out 3 years ago. It's just that two of the people in the class action were like, "No, we're not accepting this," and they appealed it as far as they could appeal it. Their final appeal was tossed aside, and so now Apple is free to rid itself of this problem by giving money to people and pretending it never happened. So
you know why it took so long? Apple agreed to this years ago. Two people said,
two people. Yeah.
It's not enough money. We want more.
Yeah, the judge said, no, it's enough. Go away.
It's been going through the courts for 3 years. Finally, the judge said, please, can we just give away the money?
Stop. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Crazy,
so it's happening.
Crazy.
It's yeah.
We are going to give you a chance, as I mentioned, to join us if you're in the club. Go on to the stage. In a few minutes, we'll ask you to raise your hand. We'll give you a chance to ask anything you want of Paul and Richard. And, of course, if you're an IRC, you'll have to type your questions, but I will read them dramatically. You could choose the voice you'd like me to use so that Paul and Richard can...
We don't have AI voices that they could choose from?
Oh, we should.
I would like Sarah too.
Morgan Freeman will read your questions
nice.
in just a little bit. But first,
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
We're going to take a break and then the Xbox segment. Okay, everybody breathe. Now it's time for the Xbox segment. Paul Thurrott. Well, Richard, I don't want to leave you out.
Oh.
Anything you want to say about Xbox? Okay, Paul Thurrott.
Oh. He's like, what now?
I actually fired up my Xbox this morning because I want to get that new Blizzard. I'm sorry, Bethesda game. What is it? Starflight?
Starfield.
Excited. Yeah. That's going to be on Play Pass.
Yeah, the Xbox is for hosting Plex and Netflix.
Nothing else.
When you're a member of the PC Master Race, there's really no reason to do anything else.
Well, but see, I can play Starfield for free on my Xbox. I'd have to buy it if I wanted to play it on my PC. But I agree with you. I kind of prefer to play it on my PC if I can. Maybe I'll buy it. If it's good on the Play Pass, I'll buy it.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I mean, you could stream it if you want to just test it really quick.
How does that work? Does that work well?
Yeah, it works okay. I think for a game like Starfield, it'll probably be pretty good. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to hijack.
That's okay. Anyone who has used an Xbox or done anything online probably is familiar with the notion of toxicity. And I would say there's a special brand of toxicity you see in video games because it's a lot of guys just acting like guys, and a lot of terribleness occurs. I mute everybody online on Xbox for this reason. I can't stand it. Every once in a while, for whatever reason, I let everyone's mics on. It takes about 30 seconds. You're like, oh, yeah. That's why.
Oh, yeah. He remembers suddenly.
The guy singing to himself for some reason. The guy talking to someone else in the room. The guy with the TV on that you can hear the music. The guy shouting racist or sexist comments at his screen, whatever it is. And it's like, I can't, geez, enough, mute, I think it's fair to say Microsoft has not done enough about this. There have been various initiatives over the years. There was a guy named Stephen Toulouse, who you guys may or may not remember, who unfortunately back in the early days of Xbox Live was responsible for this part of the company and was like those people who have to deal with horrible things online. And he had all kinds of issues and unfortunately has passed.
Oh dear.
He was a great guy too. It's too bad. Anyway, they're doing something about it again. Right? And so the new system is based on a system of strikes like you might have with the DMV, although you get way more strikes with Xbox than you do with your local DMV. And the idea is that for whatever the affront is, it could be some of the things I just described. It could be cheating. It could be whatever it is. You will receive a strike for each incident. The strikes remain in your record for 6 months. If you get 8 strikes, you're out. They will suspend you. Actually, they were suspensions that occur along the way before then, I should say. So I think there's like a day-long expulsion after one strike, and then after 3, it's like 2 days or something. It kind of escalates over time. But if you actually get up to 8, you're out for a year. And we'll see how this goes.
How do you get strikes removed? Is it just time?
6 months. It was 6 months.
If you don't teabag anybody for a whole 6 months.
Well, so this is the thing. So here's the problem. I as a veteran of the Xbox Wars, I will tell you that there are rules and ways that you can play within the rules and still be horrible. And then there are things that are against the rules where you can be even more horrible. So for example, I use this example all the time because I do this all the time because I am an ass. In Call of Duty, if you play the hardcore versions of the games in deathmatch, that means that among the many changes in the game, you can kill people in your own team. That's actually bad, right? Because the other team gets a point or whatever.
Friendly fire.
Friendly fire. Now, the point of it is it's a mistake. You have to be careful. You're firing at a guy. A guy in your team is running between the bullets. Right. You got to stop shooting. In front of you. Now, the problem is toxicity. So that guy could, because he doesn't like you for some reason, might be running in front of your bullets on purpose.
Right.
Because if you do that 3 times, you get kicked out of the game. Or I'm a dick and I don't like some guy. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to use these two and shoot this guy in the face because I can't stand him and I want him to know it, but I'm not going to go for the third one and get kicked out of the game. So you can play within the rules and still be kind of toxic, right? I think it's not good behavior. It's not healthy.
That's my motto.
But you can
play within the rules, but still be kind of toxic.
Given that background now, I look at this system and I think to myself, not that I would ever go for these kinds of strikes. I don't want to get kicked off of. You have to balance the strikes versus the number of days you get booted, right? So 2 strikes is 1 day each. 3 strikes is 3 days off. But you know what? Maybe I'm going on vacation, and I'm like, I could do 7 strikes right here. I could be a real jerk. God. And I'm going to be gone for a couple of days.
Anything that a company will do can be gamed, and
that's what I mean. Like people who are bad, people who are just toxic or whatever the word is you want to use, will look at this and say, I can live with some of this.
I could do that.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, I feel like maybe this needs to be tightened up because I know that's going to happen. I know how terrible people are online. I know how terrible I am online, and I we'll see. And we'll see how this works. I like that they're finally doing something. This is basically like a community guidelines thing. Like they're spelling it out. They're like, look, these are the rules. You can break the rules, but you're going to get suspended. And we'll see, we'll see how this really goes down. It's possible you're doing something illegal online, whatever that might mean. And you could just lose your account after 1 strike. You don't need strikes, I found it amusing, sad, I guess. There was a person on my site who, having understood this new system, said, well, I don't like that you could lose all the Xbox content you purchased through the store. That's not cool. And it's like, wait a minute. But how far do you have to go to lose that? Like, what are you talking about? That is the point of punishment is that it's punishment.
It has consequences.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, to me, that's like the point. It has to be strong enough that it stops you from doing the thing.
It's tough though, because there's always going to be somebody's going to game it.
Yes.
And I can't think of anything that's not gameable. And in a way, by doing it, you kind of encourage people to kind of game it. Which is
well, what you do is you set the guidelines, right?
But you have to set the guidelines. This is like on my site, we have a community guidelines, and it's like, look, stay on topic. You do this. I'm not going to kick someone off the site because they can't stay on topic in the comments, right? But there are people who go after the other commenters very aggressively. There are people who go after the writer of the article very aggressively. One of the things I have in there is about misinformation, and it's like, well, who gets to decide what's misinformation? I do. It's my site. And I define it as something that's not a fact, that's presented as if it were a fact. Like climate change isn't happening, or COVID wasn't really a pandemic.
Or that restaurant, it's not good Chinese. I understand.
Right. Yeah, right. That's a fact. So, right. No,
3.5 is not good.
I'm just saying, everyone has opinions. I mean, that's fine. And you can disagree and all that stuff, but it's,
we're okay with you being wrong. It's fine.
The point is, you have, whatever the rules are, you could agree with them and disagree. We can debate them. It's fine. But you have to, I think I agree with Leo 100%. People are going to game this. Mm-hmm. Taking this step of just saying this is the deal.
There are rules.
Is so important.
Yeah.
Well, they must have always had explicit rules.
But they never told us what it was.
Oh, they haven't. That's a
So if you go, in other words, like I could go on X. So imagine I turn all the microphones on and I'm running around and some guy's doing some racist something, whatever it is. So I can hold down on the record button. It records the last 30 seconds. I report that guy to Xbox. Sometimes I would you hear back. Thank you for your report. Just wanted to let you know. We actually bumped this guy off. He's gone. I think, wow. But, I would say not 9 times, 7, 8 times out of 10, you don't even hear, Yeah. And sometimes you see the guy again. You're like, oh, well, there you go. There was one guy who made it very clear to me that I was the reason he lost his account on Xbox and he started a new account. And I was like, welcome back. I have a feeling this will be a temporary thing.
Looking forward to reporting you again. To be clear, the reason you lost your account is you.
Because of the way you are. Yeah.
Exactly. The way you're behaving.
Yep. So anyway, I find those people to be amusing, but they're out there. So anyway, I'm glad before it was just kind of nebulous. Now it's at least specific. I do think they're going to have to adjust it.
Yeah. I would think just take a strike off a month or, it's got to be a regular, people are going to curse, right? Like that happens.
I don't think it's going to be. I mean, I hope it's not going to be for something like that.
No, they said profanity was a strike, and then they talk about a 1-day suspension for a strike.
Yeah, but if you're playing a mature game, right?
Right.
A game that's rated M.
Yeah.
And it will be there will be swearing in the game. The game includes swearing, right? So look, anyone who gets shot in a game and yells out the F word or something, I can't imagine they're going to get a strike for that. It's going to be the people who are just like sitting there on their mic, open mic, going on and on and on.
Baldur's Gate 3 has nudity. Can I game naked?
I mean, yes.
I guess no one can tell, right? Yeah.
I don't know if you don't have a leather chair. I would say maybe.
Well, that's part of the fun.
Yeah.
Not try to get up.
Like you got to leave in 5 minutes. You're like, I need more than that to get off of this chair. Take a little while. So it's going to take. Yeah, it's like removing a Band-Aid.
That's one of the old Xbox beta stories, or not the Xbox. What was the 3D gizmo? Now the name just jumped out of my head.
3DFX.
No, the bar that you put on top of the Xbox for
the Kinect.
Motion capture. Yeah. The Kinect. In the beta of the Kinect, because there is a camera on it, when they're still trying to figure out if the model worked well, an email went out to all the beta testers, says, please do not play naked.
We can see you.
Please. Yeah.
Yep.
And we need to see you. Like it's part of our jobs and we're not enjoying it.
We really, like, our job is tough enough already. Please don't do this to us.
Come on.
Yeah, because no offense, but the typical Xbox player, we're not talking particularly athletic here. Yep. Okay. What else do we have?
Game Pass.
Yeah. So second half of August is actually looking pretty good. There's only for Game Pass, 4 games that they've announced. 2 are of interest to me. So one is a game I've already played through, Firewatch. It's going to be on all the platforms. This is a fantastic game. If you have Game Pass, please go check it out. The other one is called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is kind of interesting.
What's it about again?
Well, you're either killing or being killed. Is the you can play on both sides of the chainsaw? I guess
is that true? You can. That's fun.
You'd be Leatherface, or you can be one of the would-be victims and maybe beat Leatherface. I guess. This is following up remember the Friday the 13th game came out 2-3 years ago. Supposed to be really good. I couldn't get into it. I'm kind of a big fan of stupid horror movies, but I just didn't really enjoy it. But they got some licensing thing happened. I think possibly related to the movies, actually, because there's some debate over who owns what, and that game just kind of disappeared. Unfortunately, like it just dropped off
Georgia Dow challenged me to play the Exorcist game on the Quest. Apparently, it's terrifying. Okay. And she said, I said, I'm not going to be. It's a game. It's not scary. She said,
sure.
I dare you to do this on camera. So at some point, we're going to set it up, and I'm going to play this game on camera, and I'm going to scream.
I have never been more scared than it was 1993, probably, whenever Doom first came out. And I had my big headphones on playing it on my computer. And Stephanie walked over to tap me on the shoulder and say she was going to bed. And I screamed like a little girl. She scared the living daylights out of me. So, I mean, I guess it can happen. It certainly has happened.
Trying to think of the game that scared us. There was a game that I literally stopped playing unless I played during the day, because I would game late at night, headphones on,
right,
and that just the sound effects and stuff just got to me, and I'm like, nope, I'm only playing this game during the day. It's messing with my sleep.
I'm going to put my back to the wall and use the speakers on the computer and not headphones. And
Half-Life, when those suckers jump out of the nowhere to your face.
Jump scares a good jump scares are the best.
Can't really go wrong with that, can you? All right. What else? Was that all the Game Pass titles? Are there more?
No, there's one last thing. This is just sort of semi-related. It's not actually Xbox, but Netflix, which you may know, has launched mobile games through their mobile app, which I don't like. I wish that was a separate app, but I get what they're doing. Has announced that they're going to, they've started a beta, so they are going to do a cloud gaming service, meaning they're going to stream games to mobile devices over the internet, which has not worked well for most.
That's never.
Yeah,
the internet, that's never catching on.
Well, so Leo asked, Starfield. So Starfield's the type of game I think will be okay. I know one of the 2 games they're beta testing is called Oxenfree. It's a famous game. This is not a fast action game, and this is the type of thing I think that would stream pretty well, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see I don't quite understand. I would just download the damn thing. I don't get it.
I think Netflix is just trying to find revenue streams because the studio thing's just not worked out that well for them.
Yeah.
And you've got a footprint in people's homes, sell them as many things as you can.
I just don't get it because, I know that's not how we know Netflix. So
yeah, it's just a question of, do they survive if they don't diversify?
Right.
Like that's
they pivoted
the real threat
once
here.
before. In fact, they're just now killing the red envelope in about 2 weeks.
But if you're gonna, Disney, like that's what they have to be afraid of, right?
Right. Well, that was always Disney. So Disney raising prices, Disney going after account sharers, or Disney. Disney is figuring out what everyone else figured out, which is like, we have this big audience, we need to monetize them better.
Yes, and we have the largest studio set. We have the largest set of products. We're no longer selling it to these other companies. We're going to keep it for ourselves.
But is that enough? Marvel and Star Wars, great, but don't you want to watch something else? Maybe not. Maybe I do, but maybe not.
Well, so we're going to talk about streaming services when we get to the back of the book, and Disney is my example of, I don't really need this.
Yes.
So it depends. So you have little
recognizing
kids.
that Demolition Man was it was a fundamental reference for the 21st century, and there's a great quote in Demolition Man when they're about to go to the restaurant and Sly Sloane's all confused about, we're going to Taco Bell, and he goes, "Oh, you don't know about the restaurant wars of 2034."
Yes.
All the restaurants are Taco Bell.
I always confuse Demolition Man with Judge Dredd for some reason, but yes, those
it's got Stallone in them.
Those competing visions of the future are beautiful. Yes. But you just reminded me of my favorite Futurama joke, which is that guy goes 1,000 years in the future, whatever, goes to his bank, or he has to pay for something, and he's like, pays with a credit card. He's like, "Oh, sorry, sir, we MasterCard went out of business in 2718. He's like, "Oh, do you take Visa?" He's like, "No, Visa went out of business in 3015 or whatever." He's like, "Okay. How about Discover?" It's like, "Sorry, we don't take Discover." It's like Discover somehow has survived,
still alive,
but no one still takes it. It's just beautiful. It's perfect.
Yeah, but to me, it seems like all streaming services will eventually be Disney, like that.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Bob Iger's about to sell it off for parts.
Oh boy! Wow.
We'll talk about it. It's in your back of the book, and we're going to get to the back of the book in a bit. But first, it's time.
Exciting.
To get our chatters involved. Now, if you are in the Club Twit Discord, I've opened the stage, so head over to that live stage over there. Kev has raised his hand. You see, raise your hand, and I will invite you onto the stage. But that's not the only people who can participate. We also have
just the best people.
Well, those are the ones who give us money. We also have the IRC. And if you want to join us in the IRC, I will do a dramatic reading of your question.
Oh, that's what that was for. Okay. Because they're using Telnet or something.
Yes. For those of you using Telnet, I will do a dramatic reading.
If you're on dial-up, I will translate your question in real time as it comes in.
Well, you know what? I see you, Kev. He raised his hand fast, so let's invite him up on the stage, and Kev Brewer will... From the UK, I just like his accent. We'll ask the first question. Anything you want. It could be about brown liquor. It can be about Call of Duty. Paul Thurrott and Rich Campbell. It's an Ask Me Anything.
Well,
yeah. Go ahead, Kev. Hello, Kev.
Hi. How are you?
We're great.
Are you all well?
Yes. How are you?
Good. I have a question about the imminent future of Windows 12 and the new devices that they must be bringing out to make that work, i.e. NPUs for one, for the AI side, but also given that Microsoft are also moving into the sustainability area and putting replaceable parts in their kit now, do you think they're also going to start thinking about replaceable batteries for their new laptop?
They may not have a choice.
Right? Well, there's the point. It means a complete redesign. What do you think?
I think. Go ahead,
brother. I think it's 100% achievable. We've seen replaceable batteries work in a lot of scenarios before. There is a risk to lose a certain amount of power capacity, but I also think folks will just take a slightly thicker machine to do this. There's going to be a great aftermarket for replacing batteries too, but it is a forcing function. Like we have to have someone like the EU come in saying, no, you've got to do this or you can't sell in this marketplace. And then the reality is everybody else gets to benefit because they're only going to make one. There's no two ways about that.
Let me ask you a question though, Kev, because I think in our Twit community, Big D is his handle in our Twit community, said that there were in fact exceptions on the battery law that would allow if you have more than 500 cycle charge, if you keep 80% after 500 cycles, there are a few exceptions that might actually eliminate laptops. Well, and mean that it's only phones that have to worry about this.
But related,
but it's going to have to happen.
Yeah, it should happen, right? It's
laptop manufacturers just agree to do this because it's a good idea, right?
Yeah,
it's more likely they'll be repairable rather than the old style where you pop it off the bottom at first. I mean, I think that's going to be the step, and we'll see if we get all the way to where it needs to be. But I don't really think repairable is enough. I think user serviceable is the goal, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, repairable means it's not glued. That that's right. That a layperson with normal tools like a screwdriver could replace it.
Go back and look at some of the early, I don't know, SciFixit or whatever, those videos where they jerry rig or whatever, they tear things apart, and look at some of the early Surface devices, like early Surface laptop or whatever, and all of the glue and tape and nonsense, and it's you destroy the device just to get at some of the innards, right? Especially if it was like an Alcantara device or whatever. I think this is one of the best things that's ever happened. I think this is gonna keep progressing over time. I think it is going to get.
They've got history, haven't they, on this? Because their 950 Windows phone had a replaceable battery. You could literally take the back off and stick it in.
Well, all the old phones did.
It was one of the few that did it.
Yeah. I love that. I think I told the story a couple of shows ago. Yeah, the first Windows phones, Samsung Focus. I would drop this thing all the time. 4 pieces would fly apart, pop it all back together. Yeah, that was wonderful. Like I loved it. I mean, I love that.
I would buy Samsung phones and 2 extra batteries. Of course, then the battery life wasn't great, so you'd have an extra battery at lunchtime.
Yeah, but you carry around this tiny little thin battery in your pocket. It was great. And this is like there's a whole massive conversation you could have that starts off. The iPhone was so great that we gave up all-day battery life. We gave up removable batteries. We gave up all this stuff because the sum total of that thing that they offer was so great. But I think over time you realize that we could still have that. There's no valid reason that.
Well, the only argument is you'll have slightly less battery life or a slightly larger,
slightly thicker device. Which honestly, at this point, it's like
I don't think anybody mind a slightly thicker device.
No, I don't think so either.
Well, and I think it's just silly.
Yeah, and I think there was a window there where the polymer battery, the flexible battery, really did make such a big difference. But that window passed. We now have enough battery life, or are capable of having enough battery life.
This is
removable batteries just don't.
This is Kevin we're talking to, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Kevin, is that right? Yeah. Kevin, I have a question for you. Why is your background better than all of our backgrounds?
His camera's better. Look how good it looks. Oh my God.
What's happening?
You
look like you're a professional broadcaster.
It's also my work desk. Well, I have been in the game for quite a lot of years. I've done radio, I've done television. I write nowadays because it's just easier, as you know. I'm going to go spend 16 hours on a film crew on a set somewhere in the middle of nowhere and wondering how the hell I'm going to get back to the hotel and find that the restaurant's closed at 9 o'clock. That kind of stuff. So, I've just put 3 lights up. This is just a reflected light with a tiny little 20 quid light on the back wall, which is white, so I can change that colour. Well, I've got a white one about 45 degrees ahead of me, and above me I've got a ring light, and that's all I need.
God. He's got more lights in this studio.
So you're making me look bad, and I think all of us, and you stop. Just stop. I will. You look great. That was a great.
What's your internet bandwidth, Kevin? That's another thing. Right?
I'm on a 500 up at the moment. Yeah.
There you go. 500 up. That'll do it.
It's all about the up.
That'll do her.
Jeez. That's how you can tell you don't live in the United
States. 5 down, sorry, not 5. Oh, it's 35.
40 up.
40. Oh, okay. There you go. That's the RC.
I've changed the package, actually.
It's like it's 1 gig down, 25 up. Like, are you serious?
Yeah, I didn't want to go to the gig. They're asking too much money for that.
Where in the UK? Are you from Oxford? I thought you maybe, I don't know.
No, I'm in Nottingham.
Nottingham, that's right.
Nottingham, Robin Hood land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have...
right at the centre of the country. I'm 3 hours from anywhere that matters.
I've been to the Oak.
Yeah.
The old Sherwood. Yes, Major Oak.
Yeah, in the Sherwood Forest. Is it still standing?
Oh, yes, it's still standing. In fact,
Nice.
they've just completed a $9 million rebuild of the visitor centre up there. So it's all glass and sustainable wood and everything.
Almost makes you believe Robin Hood was real, doesn't it?
Almost.
Hey,
if you went to the new castle,
has
it
a
was spent
statue
$3 million
of
on there.
Rocky.
Except it's not a castle.
Hey, it's great. Kevin, you're a great member of our community. We're very glad always to have you in the participation.
Love the network.
Yeah, thank you.
Always
I really
welcome.
appreciate it. Thanks for joining us.
He's also
You're welcome.
on
See you
Mastodon,
guys.
if I'm not
Thanks again for the
mistaken. This is
answers.
Kevin.
Yeah, it's Kev Brewer. He's on Mastodon. I'm going to invite specialist first class Casey of the 91st something. Casey, what is the 91st SFG stand for?
Wow.
Special Forces Group.
Are you Special Forces?
This is a gaming sim. No stuff.
You're the guy with the strikes. Okay, now we got it. Hi, Casey.
Oh, no, I never go Rambo.
Welcome, and thanks.
And a sim is playing with others, not poll style.
There you go.
Okay,
that's right.
Well,
that's right. I take the team out of team deathmatch.
I was watching Office Hours yesterday, and a question came up that I think is pertinent, particularly for Paul, at about the 55-minute mark, in which they were talking about world market shares of various video conferencing software. Now, I have no way to verify the numbers, but they had Zoom at 55%, Teams at 21%, GoTo at 13%, WebEx 9%, RingCentral 6%, Meet 5%, FaceTime 3%, Skype 3%, Facebook Messenger less than 1%. And I found it amazing that there was a certain company that was completely missing from the list that seems to have had some antitrust discussion in the last few weeks, Paul. And I was sort of wondering what your thoughts were.
Which company is that? Well, I think it's interesting that Google isn't in there.
Google Meet's there, and Teams was there.
Oh, Google Meet was there. So I thought
both
Teams
Microsoft
was there, but
and Google are represented. Yeah,
Teams is Teams is Skype or Microsoft. My understanding was that Zoom was about 50%. So that kind of
it sounds right. You know what? The interesting thing in that stat is that WebEx is so
Slack.
Low.
Yeah.
That WebEx, which used to be the dominant form of...
Or that GoToMeeting was even in there still somehow. Well, no, I mean, we've kind of talked around this a little bit, but it's interesting when the pandemic happened, Microsoft should have ran with Skype at that time.
Yeah.
They were pushing Teams so heavily, they just couldn't scale back, step back from that cliff. And Teams is a horrible brand for consumers for obvious reasons and whatever, but it's interesting to me which companies did benefit. Zoom, right, was the big one, and which didn't. And I use the example of Slack with regards to that antitrust case in Europe. And Richard's probably done this a lot more than I have. I've only used Slack one time to do this kind of a call. It's for some reason just not.
We use Slack.
My experience.
They call it a huddle in Slack.
I hate that term.
And we use it sometimes for intercompany calls because we're in Slack.
So
we're living in Slack, and you press a button, it says huddle, and then you have a call. So I think that's the main purpose of that. Is not so much to do, let's have a meeting, because it's more like intercompany calls.
Teams benefited greatly. I had written an article where, I don't remember the numbers now, but like right at the start of the pandemic, Teams had, I can just guess and say like 30 million users or something. And then you spit out yourself on the other side. It's like 400 million people or whatever you say, 300 million. It's like, and look, let's be fair to them. They added a ton of features literally every month during that time frame. It's not like they sat still on it. But I do feel like Slack kind of dropped the ball. And, part of the problem there is the same problem Netscape had, which was, belligerent and, monopolist over here, beating you to death with all their power and money. But you also screwed up yourself too. And in the same way that Netscape was purchased by AOL for billions of dollars, Slack was purchased by Salesforce for billions of dollars. And I mean, normally that's when investment happens and you see the product explode. And I'm not saying Slack didn't. I mean, I'm not a Slack expert, but It's weird. It's weird to me they didn't come out better, you know. It's too bad Microsoft.
It's weird to them. That's why they go after Microsoft.
Yeah, Microsoft did. Microsoft did this thing that nobody noticed or cared about in both Windows 10 and 11, where there was basically a Meet Now feature that was a way to, without an account, start a call, talk to anyone in anywhere in the world. You could send them a link. They didn't have to have Microsoft accounts or anything. They could be on any device. It was a very nice thing, and it just didn't go anywhere. Zoom just I can't explain Zoom's ascendance during the pandemic because it was one of many things that did the same thing. But Zoom,
it was super easy. You didn't need an account. They gave you 40 minutes free. You know, like they did a lot right.
Yeah.
And then when horrible things were happening with it, I thought they addressed it pretty quickly too.
Yep.
Like they really did work hard to make it hard for people to hijack your call and stuff.
But be honest, I don't think any of us knew at the beginning of the pandemic thought, oh, here comes Zoom. Everybody's going to be using it.
That's kind of my point.
It was out of nowhere. It really was.
I don't know that we'll ever understand it. It had a nice short brand, I guess. I mean, but Skype, same number of letters. Am I wrong?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think it's got to be ease of use. I really do. And I don't know why, but what do you use, Casey?
I use Skype and primarily Zoom.
Yeah. It's just the default. And, there's a natural network effect because you've got to use the same thing the other person's using. It's like messaging. Yeah. And so if everybody you're talking to is using Zoom, you're just going to use Zoom. And I think that's how it snowballed.
I will say it does. I mean, I use I use Slack and Teams and Skype and, WhatsApp and whatever. But Zoom is the only one that remembers my settings every time. Like one of the enduring frustrations of Teams is that at least twice a week I'll sign in and someone can't hear me, I can't hear them, and it's like, guys, nothing has changed here, nothing.
Yeah,
but it can't. And Zoom does a great job with that, and maybe that's part of the ease of use. I think when the world is falling apart and things are going bad and something doesn't work software is like, I'm moving on to the next thing. I don't have time for this. Maybe that's I still can't logically explain it. It does work well. We're using it right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the whole company runs on Zoom now. It used to run on Skype. Casey, what game are you playing that you're in the Special Forces group?
It's Arma 3, but the game right now is a certain D&D related game that seems to be popular right now.
I have, I was late to work yesterday because I was trying to get out of the spaceship in Baldur's Gate 3. Is that the one you're talking about, Casey?
You got to get.
I like that.
It is.
I like that everyone.
It is tough. It's a good game.
Everyone needs like a primer on D&D. All of a sudden, it's like
it's D&D, isn't it? Yeah. It's turn based. That's weird.
I played D&D for more than 50 years, so.
Yeah.
So you feel comfortable with it? I mean, you like out of the box, you go, oh, I get what's going on and all that. So I'm not a D&D guy, so I'm learning.
Well, sort of.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but it's fun.
I'm enjoying it.
Well done. Well done game.
Have you gotten out of the alien ship? I bet you have.
Oh yeah, I'm exploring, and I'm right now in a crypt trying to not get killed.
Have you played it yet, guys? Paul, Rich, have you? Well, I know.
No, you're going to learn what I'm playing soon. That's going to be in the back.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not a first-person shooter, Paul.
No.
Yeah.
It's turn-based. It's so weird for me to, you do your thing, and then you have to say, okay, end turn. And then, the alien gets his shot.
The whole D&D experience.
Yeah.
It's all turn-based.
Hey, Casey, thank you. You're a regular, too, in our Discord. I thank you for your support as a Club Twit member and for all your contributions in the Discord. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for answering my question.
Yeah. Thanks, Casey. JR has one for you in the IRC. So I will read this.
Which is not JR, my JR.
No, JR Raphael, I don't think. Could be. Leo, I need a Windows 10 or 11 tablet, 10 to 12 inches. Yeah. Hopefully less bucks than Surface. I need my Excel VBA macros to work. Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, Surface devices have gotten a little bigger over the years. Like the Surface Pro is 13 inches now, from whatever. But honestly, you said no Surface, but I would look at the refurbished store at
that's a
Microsoft
good idea,
Store,
actually. Yeah,
and get a couple of generations old version of Surface. I wouldn't recommend one of the smaller Surface Pro or the Surface tablets like the Go or whatever. I think those are too underpowered Intel Pentium blah 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 chips. I wouldn't do that, but I would look at a 2-gen old Pro to see what those prices look like.
Does Asus make Windows tablets or convertibles? I
just don't know enough about the other stuff. There was a time period where all the major PC makers were making their version of a Surface Pro, right? With their version of a kickstand, their version of a clip-on keyboard case, cover, whatever, their version of the pen, etc. I'm not sure if those don't come across my desk a lot. Most of the time I'll either see like a traditional laptop, obviously, or like a 2-in-1 of some kind of convertible or something that can flip around and be a tablet. But I wouldn't say no to Surface. I mean, I would look if you don't want to spend it on although by the way, I think the sales still, I believe they're back to school sales still happening at Microsoft Store, so that you might be able to get a good deal. But I would look at refurbished. That's how I buy half of my Apple equipment, for example. That stuff's expensive, so I've always had good results.
Chickenhead mentions, and I do like the Dell XPS 2-in-1, which is a convertible. And I don't have the convertible version, but I do love the XPS. That's a nice platform.
Yeah, but I suspect from the question, maybe he wants like literally a tablet,
just
pen-based.
a tablet. Yeah.
God, that used to be they're a little harder to find. Yeah.
Remember when Bill Gates said that's the future of computing?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, we should have known that was not the answer. But right when he said it, that's not going to happen, Bill. Handwriting.
Raise your hand if you want to talk. Joe Esposito. We love Joe. He designs our stickers for us in Twig, and he is on the line in the Discord. Hi, Joe.
So actually, it's sort of related to what Paul was just saying, because he was talking about how the devices were getting bigger. And I was always interested in the Studio, which they stopped with the Studio 2, right? They haven't done anything
so far.
Since that with the giant.
We'll see. Yep.
Do you think there's any chance that comes? Because as an artist, I mean, I don't know if I would ever be able to afford it, but man, I want one of those things. I always thought it was such a neat form factor, such a neat device.
Padre did this, right? That one of the problems with that is they had some lackluster parts, and you could upgrade your SSD.
Joe, I will mail you Surface One, because I loved it. We had it, and it was great.
So here's the alternative.
It's a little underpowered for today, I think.
We always wanted Microsoft to come out with a Surface Studio screen, right? Whatever they would call that.
Just give me that screen.
To any computer. I don't have the details on this. I just saw the headline, looked at it briefly, and moved along. But Dell, I think just today, announced a 27-inch display, USB-C, that comes down just like the Surface Studio and does touch. So like that, it's going to be probably, it's 16 by 10, not 3 by 2 and all that kind of stuff. But I never understood why we didn't have standalone displays that worked like a Surface Studio. And so it's possible that this Dell display might, I don't know, sort of meet you halfway to what you're looking for. But
well, that'd be great, because I mean, I use the iPad primarily now, but I mean, it's a small device, so I end up having to zoom in a lot. It's just not made for working. It's fine if you work small scale. It's not made for working large scale, and I tend to work large scale. So it'd be great to have something like that. I always thought the Studio, because I remember I went to one of the Adobe Maxes, and I think they had one with the dial on it, all this different Logitech stuff on it. I was like, whoa, this is amazing.
It was so cool.
Right.
It was. It was great. And then just kind of died off, almost like Windows Phone, where I wish they would try that again.
Well, it's a bit like...
I know they won't.
What's the Surface Hub? I think it might have been a victim of the pandemic a bit. And, we were looking for more basic computing, I think, during that time frame. So we'll see. Brad just brought this up. It's possible we will see a new Surface Studio at some point.
That would be great, because I love that thing.
I mean, we should have announcements in October, right? I've been holding out for announcements in October.
Yeah.
Because I need a new laptop.
There will be something this fall. Yep.
Okay.
Ooh, we need an event. Will they be doing an event, do you think? we need a couple more events.
Microsoft's been spotty on you mean like an in-person event, or
it doesn't have to be in person, just like an Apple event. Recorded is fine. We thought we would be doing about 12 events, one a month.
Right.
And we've only they've been kind of scant.
I don't know.
People just aren't doing events like they used to. They're not doing trade shows.
Well, because they saved money for 3 years. They're like, you know what?
Yeah, we don't need to do this. What?
Yeah.
They're expensive.
Joe, what's the name of your do you have a website for your art and all that stuff? I want to give you a plug because you do these great stickers for us in Twig.
Yeah, the easiest address is just ozoneartfoundry.com. If you go there, that's my art site, and that will show you different stuff that I do and have links to things. So that's the easiest one that has kind of the work that I've been working on currently. I mean, it's not,
I would show people, but I brought the stickers home. I'm putting them on my laptop.
Oh, there's more stickers coming.
Oh, good.
This Week in Google, I have a tease. This Week in Google, I have what might be one of my best ones yet based on Jeff Jarvis. I have to admit, I'm pretty proud of it. So stay tuned for that if you want to see something that only a fool would come up with.
Yeah. And actually a big announcement coming up on This Week in Google from Stacy. So we will share that with you. This is these are the stickers that we've got so far. Mr. Pruitt's seal of approval. Now that's legit. Let me get my my Korean barbecue out of the way, and I'll show you the close-ups of these here. That's legit. There's Mr. Pruitt's seal of disapproval. No, thank you, sir. Stacey Higginbotham's bougie seal of approval.
Oh man, I keep deleting the wrong thing. I'm putting the URL for that Dell monitor in the thing. I keep.
Oh, good. All right, good.
It's 24 inches, not 27. I'm sorry.
And
that's okay.
Oh, F me, go bore a hole. I think you could, maybe we could get one with Paul in there.
Sure.
Or something about the Chinese restaurant. I don't know. I'm just thinking. Just thinking spitballing here. Joe,
I'm sure I can come up with something.
We love having you in our Discord. Thank you for all you do for the club.
Sure.
Thank you for asking a question. We appreciate it. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks for listening to me. Take care, guys.
Take care.
Thank you.
You guys want to do one more, or how do you feel?
Sure. Absolutely.
You feeling good? Let me check just one more time on the IRC. Intel event is September 19th, Keith 512 says. So maybe Microsoft's waiting for Intel to announce a new chip that they can then use.
Then like use incorrectly and have to have recalls and stuff. Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Hey, Sean is on the line. Hi, Sean, our Club Twit members. Welcome in the Discord. Oh, look, we've even got a blue screen shot of Sean. You know, Sean, when you do that, anybody can put anything they want behind you.
I'm aware of that. I'm a sign language interpreter by trade, so that's why I have the blue backdrop.
Oh, so cool. Nice. So they actually do embed you in videos. That background is a key.
Yeah, it's a chroma key.
Oh, yeah, it's cool. Chroma key. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so cool.
Nice.
What can we do?
So I would love to try to solve some of Teams' identity issues. So I do some work with Microsoft and some of their vendors. Oh, I already get laughter. So they constantly adjust things, and I have to reset all of my video settings because obviously Teams has a different viewing format than Zoom or other video conferencing solutions. Zoom keeps everything the same. It's easier to just people just send me a link. I'm able to join their meetings and interpret. Whereas if it's Windows related, I have to log in using their secure stuff. And I constantly have to restart my computer several times to finally get in. Is there any solution from you guys on how to solve the identity issues when it comes to using Microsoft Teams?
When you say identity issues, I mean the user account identity, like
settings, like his settings. Every time he has,
or you mean your literal?
I have to constantly switch both because what happens is I have to log in with a personal Microsoft account, and then I have to log in using Microsoft's account for certain things, and it'll never save my settings. I have to constantly.
Well, it's never going to save your settings. I can tell you that's never going to. With device, just talking about the devices part of it, I feel very strongly there should be a settings in Teams that says, if this device is present for audio or video or speaker or whatever, always use this device.
Yes.
I don't care what the OS is saying. I don't care what, whatever. And that's not a thing. That's not how it does things. It just doesn't work. But I I have mixed and matched teams between MSA and work or school account successfully, but I'm trying to think, I guess I never really needed those settings. I'm trying to think.
The usual crisis,
just to view an event,
Yeah, I mean, the usual crisis is you have an MSA account with an email address, and then you've used that same email address for an AAD.
Yeah, which is a huge mistake.
Then the machine gets to guess, like, what account are we playing with today?
Yep. I assume you're not doing that. I hope. In other words, you have an AAD account, and then you're like, oh, I'll make this an MSA, and therefore borking everything you're ever going to do for the rest of your life.
It's usually the other way around, because AAD is newer. Like, you've got an old, you use that old usual.
Well, both directions are a problem. Yes. So, for the same reason, or for similar reasons.
Cool. I mean, I literally was in Redmond yesterday, and was talking to a VP who will remain nameless. And I said, am I wrong? Is identity at Microsoft the third rail of Microsoft? It's where careers go to die.
Yeah, this is the multiple. I want to transfer two MSAs into one, or I want to be able to flip between two MSAs. And this is.
Could there be crazy idea like a registry? You know how you could double click a registry file and it changes things. Maybe Teams doesn't store,
or just even like a custom launch script or something.
Or custom launch. It seems like you should be able to say, this is my settings file, and I want you to use this, and this is how I launch Teams, or every time I launch Teams, or whatever. It seems like there should be a way to automate that, or a PowerShell script. Yeah. That's the question: is how automatable is Teams? How?
Yeah. I would say that I've had more success with a machine that I built from scratch as an M365 machine, so that as I was setting it up, we have that option to log into your AAD account from the beginning. Like, the main workstation now was set up that way, and a lot less pain. I'm not saying no pain, but less pain.
So, but if you literally have to use two accounts, I mean, can I assume a web-based version of Teams is not cutting it?
No, Microsoft will not let us use the web-based version because it degrades the video too much.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
if you're working with Microsoft on that, it is worth a tech support call. Like, the PSS guys are pretty good with that.
It's funny because you're doing this with Microsoft.
Yeah, and the woman on the other end of the phone is going to say, "I've never reached the end of the flow chart before, sir, but it just happened." Like, it's I'm sorry. This is just one of the weird.
Yeah. But I do know of
Achilles heels or whatever
in the sysadmin space that did a PSS for an identity crisis like this, and they did something. I couldn't even tell you what they did, and it was better. So it might be worth your time to go down that path, and they can sometimes untangle accounts.
They can't even figure out a way to have a personal account and a commercial account in Teams on the desktop in the same app, right? I mean, I just feel like
that's the issue.
Yeah, they've been working around it, I think, because you can do it on mobile. And I mean, I can't imagine. Well, I mean, iPhones and Android phones have great cameras. I mean, is mobile an option? I don't know.
Not for how we use it.
Yeah.
Because basically what they're doing is the producers on the other end, they're basically taking screenshots of our Teams feed and then feeding it into some more stuff on their end so that it produces a final video. So we'll be interpreting some of their internal and external events.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is just a weird limitation of Teams right now. And I do think it's related to my devices issue that I keep bringing up, where it's just it's really good in certain areas, and they just have these weird blind spots. But like Richard said, identity has been a problem for Microsoft broadly for however long there's been identity.
Well, really, it really became a problem when Azure came along. Like, once Azure came in and they needed AAD and it had to work a certain way, so we had a real schism of lots of people using both.
Okay.
Then it got really broken. That's when the concept of tendinitis came up.
Back around the time before AAD, like it was a problem with MSAs back, whatever we called it at the time, Windows Live IDs or whatever. But Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know of any good answer for this other than having to sit there and manually redo it every single time, which is what happens to me about twice a week.
Hey, Sean, how do you know ASL?
I appreciate you guys.
How do you know ASL?
Yeah, sorry.
Both my parents are deaf, so it was my first language.
You're Coda.
Yes, I am
Coda.
Let me tell another Washington, D.C. story then, because my son is deaf and knows sign language. And in the 8th Street corridor, apparently there's a school there for the deaf, and there's a big deaf community there. And there are businesses that are run by deaf people that have sign language signs. So it's the individual characters, right? There's a Starbucks, a pizza shop, and a couple of others. And it is as quiet as the library in those places. Let me tell you, you go in there and it's all, if you don't know sign language, you can write on a pad of paper to order. And there's a lot of waving to. Yeah, it was really neat. It's kind of a neat area.
I wish I knew ASL because
yeah, I do too.
There's actually evidence that it's like learning any other language. It expands your brain, but it expands it in a unique way, and kind of more of a spatial way. So, boy, that's neat.
Yep.
Yeah, ASL is a bimodal language. So
yeah, because you got the spelling, finger spelling, but you also have gestures. Right?
So not a lot of secrets with ASL though, right? You can't whisper ASL.
You just do it under your.
We do have whisper. We do have whisper signs in ASL.
Do you?
No, but
we just refer to them more as slang.
Full of people who know ASL. It's you can't really lean into someone and
Yeah, well, you find ways, I'm sure. Sean, thank you so much for being part of the club. We really appreciate it. Thanks for what you do too. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. We'll see you on another Windows Weekly soon, I hope. I'd like to keep doing this. I think it's a lot of fun. We have great club members, great IRC folks, and it's always nice to get your questions in. So please, let's do this again. And thank you to all the people who raised their hands.
Yeah, and this should be like a regular thing at some point. Like
we could do it. I think maybe the more we did it, the more likely we'd get people participating. It's funny. People are shy.
Sure.
But maybe
people are shy. I'm shy. Like what is this episode 800 and something? And someone else is talking to me. I'm like, oh crap.
We could have a submit a question mechanism too, so they don't necessarily have to be on the show, but could do that.
Yeah, we could do that. I mean, IRC is fairly anonymous, but yeah, we could. Yeah. All right, coming up. Thank you for all the questions. Thank you for all the answers. Coming up in just a bit, it's time for the back of the book. Back of the book time. Richard Campbell, Paul Thurrott. Let's kick it off with Paul with your tip of the week.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have noticed, but everything's more expensive all of a sudden. And a big part of that is the online services that we all use. And I've been, like so many people, I pay for a lot of services. And I'm just going to look at video streaming services for this one because it's there's a lot of good strategies for saving money, and I need to save money. So I just did this morning. We were with our kids last week, and to some degree, our kids are still we're still subsidizing their lives, right? So they're using some combination of these services as well. So I actually went through every video streaming service we pay for, found out we're paying about $75 a month, and I'm not happy with that. So we're going to get rid of some stuff, but there's some obvious kind of ways you could figure that stuff out. Like how, and so, for example, Disney Plus came up. I at some point talked myself into a Disney bundle, which is like Disney Plus with no ads, Hulu no ads, and ESPN Plus with ads. And with the idea being that it was cheaper than just doing the two separate Disney Plus and Hulus together. But now it's $20 a month, and I only watch Hulu, and I don't know why I'm paying $20 a month for Hulu, because it's pretty much Frasier reruns and Futurama, and I like those things, I guess, to some degree, but I don't really watch Disney Plus. So, one thing, obviously, go through and get rid of the stuff you're not using, but I also pay for like the most expensive tier on almost everything. So, for example, I pay for, let me see if I can find the exact name of this, Netflix Premium Ultra HD, which is like 4K. Yeah, this thing's like, it's $20 a month, you know, and that's before other people. You actually have to pay $7.99 per other person per month, right? So for both my kids, it's like $35 a month. So that's going to be changing. The one I'm going to get rid of first for me is Max. I don't watch it enough. It's $16 a month, the tier. You could actually pay $20 a month for this thing if you wanted to, of course. They're all like this. But, you know, the strategy I kind of came up with in my brain for this, and I've never actually done, partly because of the kids, because they all watch different things. It's kind of hard to do. But I still think it's a good idea, is you could just rotate between these things, like Netflix for 1 or 2 months, Hulu for 1 month or something, go on to Max for, you know, and just use that time to kind of binge watch everything that's on that service, right? Because by the time you get back to it again, there'll be new content, and, you know, you can kind of take it that way. I think the toughest thing for people of our age, especially because we grew up with like real TV or whatever, live TV, is that it's hard not to watch things when they're brand new, but it's better, I think, to wait until they're complete and then binge the whole thing at once. And if you can get into that kind of a rhythm, it kind of takes away this notion of you know, Thursday night must-see TV or whatever we had back in the day. It's just like there's a new season of Narcos or whatever the show is you like, and neat. So in 3 months when it's done, I'll watch the whole thing then, you know, do that kind of thing. But man, something's got to give. Like, it is interesting to me in this year how much stuff has escalated. And
this is kind of a trend story. Financial Times did an analysis of costs. As little as a year ago, a popular set of streaming services added up to a total cost of $73 a month, which was $10 less than an equivalent cable package. But because of the price increases you just noticed, including, by the way, a 75% increase in Disney Plus in less than a year, it's now $87. It actually costs more than basic cable. And I think what some people are saying is that these companies are trying to push us toward the ad-supported model.
That's right. And I'm not personally interested in the ad-supported tiers of anything.
I'm not either, but that's I guess they must make more money.
It's a big way to save money. Yeah. For you as the
consumer. And I think they want you to do this, frankly.
So I didn't include like services that do live TV, but YouTube TV, which I signed up for on day one back in the day, was $35 a month at launch. It's now $73.99 a month, which is over double the price. Not Google's fault, right? This is the same package problem that cost cable so much money. And you know, you can't just get the show you want. You have to get a bundle of crap that is most of stuff you don't want, and it drives the prices up.
Yeah, but bundling,
yeah, that stuff's kind of tough. But the central advantage there is still, because as those prices went up, everyone started griping, obviously, which makes sense. But it's like it's no better than cable, or it's even more expensive than cable. But the nice thing about these things is you can drop any of them at a moment's notice, and then pick them back up months later if you want to. Like, cable is still a very manual process that involves. It's like, we still have you on landlines, and if you do this, it's going to be. I ran into problems with multiple cable companies over the years. I would say with every cable company I've ever had over the years, for this kind of a reason. Like, I got off of Fios briefly because of this. RCN was screwing us over at our previous house, where I was being charged double basically per month what they were charging new customers for the same service. It's really hard to go in and out. It's basically impossible. You move and you change cable, and that's it. Like, there's no easy way around it. But with these services, you can at least go in and out. And I think that is the nice thing. And something like, I don't know the exact rules per service, but like Netflix has a rule where you close your account, or you just stop paying, you know, for the subscription, and you come back 6 months later and all your stuff is still there. So if you have a list of whatever, and you don't lose any of that stuff. So it's still very easy. It's portable, I guess would be the term, to kind of move between those things. I still think there's an advantage to that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But man, but they're so expensive.
It is widely thought that there is a crash coming in the streaming services, that the reason these prices have gone up so much is that they've invested billions in, you know, Amazon Prime spent $1 billion just to get the rights to make the Lord of the Rings prequel.
That's right. It's expensive to make these shows. And then there's also too many esoteric little services like Paramount Plus and Peacock. And what is
fatigue
this?
is coming.
I don't want to subscribe to NBC. I don't even know what that is anymore. Like there's
going to be a shakeout. We went from the great bundling to the great unbundling to the great bundling again. And and now we're paying more. And, you know, the cable companies were smart. They knew this was coming, so they raised the cost of their internet so that they would be essentially making the same amount of money.
That's right.
Giving you over-the-top access.
Yep. This is how Microsoft's going to win in gaming with Azure.
Yeah.
even if other companies win in video gaming, if it's all running on Azure, they're going to win big.
Yeah. They kind of can't go wrong. And you're right. Everything's data in the end, right? Like these ISPs have been resisting this idea that it's all just data. Sell me the lowest price.
I don't want to just be a pipe. It's like, you're a pipe. Just be a pipe.
You are a pipe. Sorry.
Just
get over
the pipe. Yeah.
And unless you pay a couple $100 a month for cable plus internet, you probably cord cutting isn't going to save you money.
You can be smart about it. I mean, it depends on where you are in life and what your situation is. But, if we were completely cut off from the kids with regards to having to worry about my daughter likes Hulu and my son likes Netflix or whatever, I think we would. I mean, we might. I feel like Netflix would probably be the one I would kind of keep. You get Amazon Prime and no one watches it anyway because you pay for Prime. Apple TV's cheap. But the other ones are like, I could do without Hulu. I could do without Disney. I could do without Max. It depends on, everyone's different, but
I think, but the fact that you make it easy to get in and out means a new series comes out you're going to watch, you pay for the month, you watch it, you let it go.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you're going to be diligent, it'll make sense. They're counting on your lack of diligence.
Yeah, just take that. You're like, all right, we're watching a series, but we're going to also watch whatever else this thing has. So let's catch up on House Hunters or whatever nonsense is on that thing, and just make that the month. If
you, rotate through the monthly.
Yep.
Binge your shows.
I know. To be clear, I've never actually done this, but I still think it's a great idea, and I think it's something we could do and will do when we finally cut the cord on our the two little leeches. But I love so much. Sometime recently we were talking about retro gaming, and I mentioned I was playing Doom 3, the
very vintage
classic.
You don't get more retro than that. Yeah.
You do actually.
Actually, you could.
And one of the ways you can do it is Quake 2 is just came out as last week rather, was the live Quake. What's it called? Quake World, whatever the live event they have in Texas is. They brought it back. First time since the pandemic, and they, as expected, announced a remastered version of Quake 2. And because it is owned by the Bethesda, which is owned by Microsoft, it's everywhere, baby. So PC, Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, Game Pass, Xbox Cloud Gaming, everywhere. Colored lighting, much better than before, better resolutions. QuakeCon, sorry, not Quake World. Thank you. It's great. And this game, everyone knows Doom and Doom 2. Everyone knows Quake. Quake 2 doesn't get enough. A lot of people would put Quake 3 Arena kind of ahead of this. Honestly, Quake 2 is a fascinating game because it came out of id Software, which is a company that to this date had only made games that were just fast action, no plot, no nothing, just blow things up.
Right.
And this thing opens with like a theatrical intro. There's a plot. You find out why you're on the planet. You're in constant communication with this other team that's telling you where to go and what to do. There's puzzles, and there's all the first person action and all that great stuff. But this thing came on, and it's also, I should say, gorgeous. Like all the accessibility features are on by default. So all the text is like beautiful. And at first I was like, I don't need the accessibility. I turned it off and went back to this like 320 by 240 gross looking pixelized text. I was like, nope, actually I do need that on. And it's instant, just retro wonderfulness. Like it still plays great, looks better than ever, but it's still like just a fun game to play single player. And there's a new episode of multiple levels that adds on to the single player experience, and a new multiplayer map as well, which I haven't looked at, but I've just been playing through it, and it's like, yep, this game is, and you hear this, like the sound effects and everything, and the 3D-ness of it are amazing, and the way the Stroke or whatever say, like they're like trespasser, and it's like, yep, I'm back, baby. It's like literally 25 years ago. Like it's awesome, and it's very inexpensive. And if you're subscribing to Xbox Game Pass, it's just part of your subscription. So go get it and enjoy it.
Go get her.
Wherever you play.
I'm glad that I saw that the 4K remaster, and I almost bought it. It's really great to see these games survive and live on.
Yeah, I really feel this is important. It's so great.
Yeah. Work hard. Well, and it's a testament to how good the gameplay was, right?
Yeah, it's still fun to play. Doom is still fun to play. Yeah. Doom and Doom 2 you can get on an iPad, you can get on Android. They're fun. It blows my mind that Quake 2, Doom 3 even aren't. I don't know why these games are not on mobile. They should be. I think they could be very effectively.
Yeah.
It's a question of when anyone does it. One of the things interesting about Quake 2, like I talk about the cinematics part of it, was one of the games that Romero was no longer involved in.
That's right. It was the first one. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was the other Carmack that took lead on it, the artist Carmack, that did a lot of that storytelling part of it.
Yeah.
With American McGee.
Yeah, to be fair, and to be fair to John Romero, the original vision of Quake was going to be something like that, not like this story, but it was going to have a story and characters, and it was going to, wasn't going to be a fast-moving first-person shooter.
I mean, and I recall they didn't want to call it Quake 2. Like they fought so much over the naming of the game that was the only thing they could agree to.
Sure. Well, so where we stand today, there's Quake, the original Quake. There's which has multiplayer and single player, but single player is this. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to it. You just go through these 3 different worlds or whatever. Quake 2 is this thing, space strug, storyline, fantastic. Quake 3 Arena, fast moving arcade gamer, first person shooter, has nothing to do with any of the other games. Mostly 100% multiplayer. You can only play multiplayer against bots or against people.
But that was because that was the beginning of that. They were literally experimenting with, can we make this really work?
But then Quake 4 comes out and it's the sequel to Quake 2. And, Quake 4 is underrated. Quake 4 was the first Quake game I played on Xbox. It was a Xbox 360 game at the time. And I thought it was great. And someday we'll get a new version of that too. I can't wait.
Yeah. So. It is got a Conway's Law effect to it. There's definitely a struggle between the original founders of id and what kinds of games they wanted to make. And so they kind of take turns.
Well, so there was John Carmack, if you follow him on Twitter, posted some photos of him at QuakeCon, and he shows up just as a showgoer, checking out his former digs. It's like it looks like they're doing okay. And he's just a guy now. But he's not. He's never just a guy. He's John Carmack. But you know what I'm saying? He's not right. He's not involved. He doesn't have decision making anything. It's.
He already made his own space program. Like he's done that.
He's done okay. He's all right. He's doing all right.
He'll be okay. Somehow he'll get by.
Yep. Yeah, good stuff.
What is Richard coming up on Runners Radio? That's what the inquiring mind wants to know.
Released earlier today in the wake of poor Racinovich's show last week, which went gangbusters. Brought Sydney Smith back. There's another show that I grabbed right after Build. We met at Build and got a chance to chat with her. But Sydney's been working on PowerShell Get since the beginning. So this is a package manager that you run through PowerShell, designed for installing and managing applications. And
is this related to Winget, or is it?
It's an alternative to, because we can't possibly have enough package managers in our life. Although we do talk about that,
went from 0 to 2, so that's good.
Well, and more like 11, right? There's a bunch. It is interesting to see what's the strengths and weaknesses of each. But the big part here is that PowerShell Get is really just an extension module for PowerShell. So folks that like working in PowerShell, it's very easy to work with it there. The V3 edition is interesting for no other reason. It's taken almost 2 years to ship. I mean, the first two came out less than a year apart. What's happened, of course, is they're on GitHub. And so they've been interacting with the folks who are using it. There's been issues, people contributing and so forth. And so it's really taken shape. Although you will find out if you listen to the show that I get her to commit to a date, which is that it's now bundled. It's going to be part of PowerShell 7.4, which almost certainly will be released at a major Microsoft event, which means it pretty much has to be Ignite. So probably second week in November.
Awesome. Sydney Smith, PowerShell Get. Runnersradio.com. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, our brown liquor pick of the week.
The whiskey times.
Whiskey times.
I just kind of went back to the well of the Buffalo Trace Distillery today. Because in some ways easy and almost should go back and do a whole story because there's all these different lineages. We talked a bit about Woodford and the folks involved with Blanton's, which was an acquisition through a guy named Albert Blanton. Well, the E.H. Taylor is part of that stack as well. So I'm specifically referring to the most common version of E.H. Taylor, if you can find it, is their small batch American bourbon. It's about 50% ABV, very reasonably priced. Named for Colonel Edmund Haynes Taylor. who was born in Kentucky in 1832. Of course, he's the Kentucky kind of colonel. It is an honorary title. He was never involved in the military whatsoever. He's really just a politician, although he is a descendant of both James Madison and Zachary Taylor. So double presidents in his family, but born, raised, lived in Frankfort, Kentucky.
Is he, when he says colonel, is it a Kentucky colonel?
Or he's a Kentucky colonel.
He's a Kentucky colonel. Okay.
Yeah.
Not a military.
So is he a Kentucky Fried Colonel?
Yeah, very much the same thing. No military involvement whatsoever. But as a banker, he was financing distilleries in Kentucky. And so at one point, one of the distilleries that he was involved with, Leestown Distillery, got into financial trouble, and he bought it along with the Carlisle Distillery. And he renamed them the Old Fashioned Copper Distillery, or OFC, which is one of the historical distilleries of the Frankfurt region. And he ended up having his own financial problems and sold it off to a well-known name in the bourbon space, a guy named George T. Stagg. And so George hired EH to run the distillery anyway. It was just a financial issue, not that he was doing a poor job, and eventually renamed it the Stagg Distillery. But it's all the same location that is now known as the Buffalo Trace Distillery. So, I mean, the thing about that space, if you talk about blends and so forth, is it's a common set of stills. They have 3 different mash bills that they generally make bourbon with, and E.H. Taylor happens to come from mash bill 1, which is the low rye mash bill. So it's a little higher in barley, a little higher in corn compared to most. So tends to be not quite so spicy, a little lighter and smoother. And then they have a ton of different rooms, different buildings that they actually mature in. There's a famous Taylor building called Warehouse C. This particular edition is not necessarily aged there. They actually have a special edition they do in Warehouse C. But they tend to be the wooden brick buildings, so they manage heat fairly heavily there. It's very warm in Frankfurt. The barrels are prone to losing water and actually rising in alcohol levels, depending on the time of year. But what you're getting here is a lighter, smoother, small batch bourbon, easy to drink, not that expensive to come by, priced around $50. But part of this amazing lineage of an array of different distilleries that come out of the Buffalo Trace facility owned by Sazerac.
Boy, when you look at the list of brands at Buffalo Trace, including, as you mentioned before, Pappy Van Winkle, Blanton's we've talked about. But I like the idea of less rye. I have to say I'm kind of a wimp when it comes to this.
I was going to say, Leo, don't put hair in your chest.
Yeah, no, I want smooth and light. So I'm going to try Colonel E.H. Taylor.
You should look up Nomad.
They even have kosher whiskey, which is hysterical. I'm not sure why whiskey wouldn't be kosher, but maybe.
Yeah, well, it just means the rabbi's gone. Okay.
It's been blessed.
Yeah.
In specially designated kosher barrels to satisfy Passover requirements.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need to drink during Passover, and who doesn't, and the Manischewitz isn't going to do it, Buffalo Trace has something for you too. Wow. I'm going to try. I don't know what to try. I've had the Blantons. I guess I should do the E.H. Taylor Jr. Colonel.
Yeah, no.
E.H. Taylor.
Fine bottle to come by, and not that particularly difficult to find. He's got some special editions that are very tough to find, but that one you'll find in a Total Wine or a Bevmo for $50.
Okay. Yeah, they have single barrel proof, straight rye, sour mash, Warehouse C tornado surviving. If you survive a tornado, you should have a special whiskey to celebrate it.
Yeah, I mean, I could do that story, but that is the building seriously damaged. Takes them a while to pull them out. They get put aside and they get lost while they restore the building and so forth. And so when they turn up those barrels sometimes later, I don't even recall, one of the very first ones I ever did was Orphan Barrel.
Yeah.
I could probably go back and visit Orphan Barrel again just because that happens. Barrels get stored in places, and sometimes people lose track of the places. We don't know where this came from.
Don't they write on the barrel what's in the barrel?
Oh yeah, normally, but it's just you don't go down into that basement.
Oh right.
You don't necessarily go there. And the story of Orphan Barrel, and I don't know that I did all of this, so maybe I'll save it for another show.
Save it, because
you
don't want to run through all your whiskeys in one Swell foop.
You know, every so often I feel like that's a concern, and then I sort of look at what I haven't talked about, and I'm like, I think I'm going to be okay. We're going to be all right.
I think there's enough whiskey to survive a couple of decades of Windows Weekly. Richard Campbell, runasradio.com and .NET Rocks. Great to have you on the show. When are you going out to the ocean? Soon?
One more week here.
Okay.
Then a week in Copenhagen and a week in the Netherlands. And then we'll be on the coast.
From the high country to the low country to the coast country.
That's
Campbell.
it.
He is the peripatetic Richard Campbell. Thank you, sir. Paul Thurrott. He is at thurrott.com. As we mentioned last week, that premium membership really makes a difference to Paul now that he's a sole proprietor. Know how that feels, Paul. Oh, boy. You can also subscribe to the newsletter there, and there's a whole lot more. And his book, Windows Everywhere, along with the Field Guide to Windows 10, both books are available at lanepub.com. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Richard.
You,
have a wonderful week. And we will see you next time on Windows Weekly. Maybe we'll do some more questions from the gallery, the Peanut Gallery. I thought that went very well. Take care. Listeners of this program get an ad-free version if they're members of Club Twit. $7 a month gives you ad-free versions of all of our shows, plus membership in the Club Twit Discord, a great clubhouse for Twit listeners. And finally, the Twit Plus feed with shows like Stacy's Book Club, The Untitled Linux Show, The Giz Fizz, and more. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit. And thanks for your support.